republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, busy agenda tonight. Let's begin with we had the DDA reception down at the in the entryway there. Hope you stopped in and met some of our DDA members. Moving on to our first of all, I have to open to additions, deletions to tonight's agenda. Any offers? Okay, with none, I'd like to a motion to approve the agenda. It's been so long since we've sailed one through. Approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Trustee Buddy, seconded by Treasurer Van Oust to approve the agenda as published. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered?
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, I just want to mention there was an additional proposed resolution on McLouth. We have one. We think it covers everything, and that is why that isn't being added.
So with that, the vote is still aye.
Mm-hmm.
And opposed? None offered. So we will proceed with the agenda as published. With that, I will open up to brief public comment on tonight's agenda items. This is the brief public comment. Or we can wait till the end and have long public comment. Okay, with none offered, let's move on to tonight's consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Brian. I'd like a motion to approve consent agenda 19-007, which includes the minutes of the April 8th, 2019 regular meeting, the minutes of the April 12th, 2019 special meeting, check register dated through May 10th, 2019, approval to process and distribute payments through May 31st, 2019, the 2019 Island Fest fireworks display, and appointment member to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oust, second by Trustee Budney on tonight's consent agenda. Any comment, discussion among the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Mr. Harrison, thank you for joining our ZBA.
And that's exactly what I would like to say. Mr. Harrison, thank you. Thank you for joining. He's our alternate now.
Good.
And if I may, the reason for the glasses, in case anybody is wondering, I had some eye surgery the end of last week, and pretty much right now I can't see, I can't read, light's bothering me, so that you won't hear much from me.
All right. And we wish you well on your eye surgery.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'll open up we'll begin tonight's action items. The first one, the police millage renewal.
Mr. Supervisor?
Did I miss something?
Yep.
Again?
Presentations.
Boy, I've only been doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have a great board to keep me in line. Let's have some presentations. How about Mrs. Jensen, Mrs. Chapman? This really is a success story, so I never get tired of hearing about the community library.
Well, good evening, Supervisor Loftus and Board of Trustees. My name is Erin Chapman, and I'm the director at Trenton Veterans Memorial Library.
My name's Donna Jensen, and I am the Adult Services Librarian.
And we are here tonight to talk about library services and to remind everyone that our summer reading program is right around the corner. And so, if anybody needs an excuse to stop by the library, please use summer reading as that excuse.
And summer reading is not just for kids, although it is a very important thing that we're doing for all of our children here on Grosse Ile. We're keeping that summer slide from happening by keeping up the reading skills all over the summer. And reading opens up skills for all things. It opens up skills for math, for science, for everything. So we want to keep those kids reading during the summer, and your library does that. We do that by bringing them in with programs every week. These programs include things like like magicians and fun things for teens, also games for teens. But also we want to invite all of you to get your library cards and come on in for the adult summer reading program. Neat thing about the adult summer reading program is that you get gift certificates. There's raffles every week. Every time you read something, it gives you a ticket for that raffle, and all of those prizes are from local businesses. So we encourage, of course, all of the Grosse Ile local businesses to offer gift certificates, but just to let you know that that is an option for you this summer as adults, children, and teens. We want all of you to come in.
And we just want to remind everyone that the Trenton Library does service for communities. So we're not only serving the community of Trenton, we're also serving Grosse Ile. We are Grosse Ile's home library. So I know a lot of people might feel like they don't have a home library. We want to invite and welcome that, if you come on in with your valid Michigan ID or a rental agreement or your tax breakdown sheet, we can get you set up with a library card.
This is your tax dollars at work. So everything that Grosse Ile stands for, we are supporting that at the library. So we're supporting families, we're supporting information, we're supporting the community. And we do that with programming. We just had a pet CPR, so you never know what you're going to learn at the library. We support local authors. We support all sorts of things. And one thing that you can do, and all of these things are free. This is, like I said, your tax dollars at work. And one of those things that is so exciting about our library card now is that we're always changing and keeping up with technology, and that includes online. So if you take a look over here, you can see some of the things that you can do online with your library card. You can download passes for free and reduced cost passes to local attractions. And actually, they're not really local. Some of those attractions are up in Marquette. They're up in the UP. There's all sorts of interesting things that you can go to see. What were some of the ones that you had found about?
Yankee Air Museum and the Detroit Science Center.
Yeah, those are just two. There's literally hundreds of. We have 20 new ones that just signed up, and they're always adding new ones. This is a year round project, but we would like to really push it in the summer because it includes the state parks, and that's always a fun thing to do with visitors as well as those of us who live here on the island. But also you can download books for free. 24/7 you can get books. Not just books, but you can get audiobooks. So when you're traveling up to Marquette to go to some fabulous attraction up there, you can enjoy, a great book, either nonfiction or fiction. You can also download magazines. So you can read them as an ebook or listen to them or look at the magazine. So there's a lot of resources online. There's some other types of resources too.
Right, yes. We're a very popular center for internet and computers, faxing, photocopying, scanning. So we want everyone to know that, the Trenton Library, that our library does have 34 public computers to be able to come and use, and you have access to those computers with your library card.
And you also have access to historical information. I know that there's a couple of old houses. I've got one on Grosse Ile, and there's a lot of us that are interested in history. And we have in the library, you have free access to Ancestry.com, and from your home, you have free access to Heritage Quest and many other databases through the Michigan Electronic Library. And some of these things may not be things that you've heard of, Michigan Electronic Library, but you just come down and we'll let you know what it's all about. And it's very easy to get a card. It's very easy to get books. And we have some wonderful, wonderful librarians and staff members there that are there to help you. I mean, that's what we're there for. We enjoy that. So just come on down anytime. We're open. Right now, we're open 7 days a week. Like I said, that online stuff's available 24/7. And then in the summer, we're still open Monday through Saturday. So we'll love to see all of you there.
Question. When did the community library, separate from the Wayne County system? How long ago
About
was that?
5 years ago, I think.
2014, I believe.
Okay, so 5 years ago. I was just thinking, what a phenomenal success story this has been.
Yes,
Much
sir.
better service, significantly lower costs. That doesn't happen often. That those happen together. A lot of it is because of the enthusiasm that you show for bringing this service to the customers. So you can take a bow for that, but I think it's just been a great success story.
Thank you. We enjoy it. We really do.
Right. We just want to keep getting better. So we hope to see you all there.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, our next presentation will be Angela Secaucus, our DDA director. And I'll just let Angela take it from here.
Well, let's see if we can get it figured out here. I just have a little presentation, about 60 slides or so.
Never say enough good stuff.
No, exactly. There's so many important things to be said. Oh, we'll get started at the top here. So as part of, I always like to come and talk about all the good things that the DDA is doing, and we usually come up and talk about the upcoming events, but as part of PA 57, which was an act that was effective on January 1st of this year, 2019, the federal government is requiring that DDA directors come up and really just talk about all the great things that the DDAs are doing so that people are aware of how the money is being spent, what we're trying to do to bolster the community. So just a quick explanation of TIF and DDA. A TIF is a public financing method that is used as a subsidy for redevelopment, infrastructure, and other community improvement projects. It's a tool that allows municipalities to promote economic development by earmarking property tax revenue from increases in assessed values within that designated TIF district. And more specifically, the DDA is a type of TIF that captures the growth in tax revenue within that designated area for use in financing a variety of public improvements in that area. The DDA is controlled by a group of appointed board members led by an executive director to make decisions and allocate TIF funds on projects that purposefully create a sense of place in the community and benefit the appearance and value of that geographic area. So I think it's important to note here, the DDA, the three things that the DDA is not, we're not a membership organization. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I should join the DDA or get more involved. Really, if you want to get involved in the DDA and volunteer, you come to the meetings. We have meetings every month. It's not a membership organization. Anyone that is within that designated area contributes to the fund, and then the board votes on how we're going to spend the money. We're also not an event planning mechanism. We do like to do events as part of it, but we do a lot more than just the events. The events are just kind of a mechanism to bring people down and really create that sense of community. And we're also a separate division. We're not part of recreation, although we do a lot with recreation, especially here in Groseal, which is unusual. That's not always the case in other areas, but we are not a part of recreation. We do partner with them to do a lot of events that coincide with one another. Our DDA is comprised of what we call the business district. It's in general this area. This is a Google map. It does include extensions along the south side of Grays Drive, but it's essentially Macomb Street from Meridian to East River. It's approximately 1,800 meters long, just over a mile. There's over 70 businesses and about 28 to 30 single-family houses. The DDA here was first conceived in 1991. The first board was appointed in 92. We underwent what we now know as the Macomb Streetscape Project, which was the addition of sidewalks, paved roads, lamp posts, Macomb Commons Park, and the elimination of the street parking, or the majority of the street parking. The current Groseal DDA and TIF plan was adopted in October 22nd of 2012. The executive director, myself, was hired part-time in June of 2016. Our budget revenues consist of tax collections and prior year resources. That's how we come together and create our fund. And the 2019 and 20 projections for those tax collections, it's about $130,000. That's what we have in our budget. And our mission is to grow, strengthen, and promote the economic health and vitality of our downtown business district on Macomb Street while generating a greater connection with our residents and island guests. And as I said, we meet monthly. Our board meetings occur at the fourth Thursday of every month at 6:30 up here in the second floor conference room, so feel free to join us. Our board members, here's a list of our board members. We do have a few members here tonight. We have Ron Moran, our chairman, and Supervisor Brian Loftus is our Township Board liaison. Susie Harrison is here. She's the owner of Victorian Place. Marie Pukak is here as well from the Groseville Pet and Garden Center. And Jennifer DeBose is here from Westcroft Gardens. So thank you for coming and supporting. Briefly, the 18-19 fiscal year progress, we like to get a lot of things done, and I think that we did a lot of things in the last couple of years to really kind of kick this off and get this program going. In particular, infrastructure improvements. We led the initiative with Public Works to repair our cement roadways, approaches, and aprons up and down Macomb Street. Added electrical service to Lions Park to provide better power access for park use. We installed water source at Lions Park for future park initiatives and to kind of keep that green space looking nice. Managed lamppost repainting, maintenance, and LED upgrades. That's an ongoing process. We contracted Holiday Street improvements, the lamppost decor, and the commons lighting. And we partner with the Garden Club, which we've done the last couple of years, to sponsor lamppost flower baskets in spring and summer. We have a great relationship with the Garden Club. We get to do fun things like ribbon cuttings and grand openings. This one is, for example, with Ume Asian Cuisine that happened last year. We also welcome new businesses, small businesses, Tipsy Gypsy Boutique and INT Home Improvement last year. We work to encourage additional private investment and improvements of those who are already invested in Macomb Street. We partnered with the ordinance officer to enforce some appearance initiatives on Macomb Street last year as well, and Duncan was a huge supporter of that as well from the fire department. We decreased vacancies through property sales, short and long-term leases signed, and we awarded grant funding to 4 applicants using the DDA created and funded new or improvement grant program guidelines. That's something we're very proud of as well. In terms of communication and marketing, one of the last times I presented, I talked about how we partnered with Public Service Credit Union on a resident survey to gauge downtown interest, and that was a huge success. We increased the following on the Meet Me on Macomb Downtown Groseville Facebook page, and we continue to do that. Featured in several publications, including Groseville Grand, Island Beacon, News Herald, Downriver Profile, Discover Downriver, Groseville Profile, and Groseville Today publications. And we represent the Groseville Township DDA at several meetings and networking events, such as the Michigan Downtown Association Conference, the Destination Downriver Coalition, Southern Wayne County Chamber of Commerce, and at an Understanding Tourism workshop that I took part in last year that was really eye-opening. And we brought together all the local downriver groups to talk about how we can promote downriver as a whole. This was, as an example, the survey that we sent out last year. In terms of events and community engagement, we introduced the Movies on Macomb Street, which we'll bring back this summer. We brought in food trucks based on the survey results and following event trends. We added lamppost banners, such as the Rotary and Boar's Head Festival, and we will be adding some new ones this summer as well that you'll see down on Macomb Street. We sponsored the annual Island Fest Parade in conjunction with the Recreation Department. We partnered with Rotary Club and the Recreation Department to produce Paint the Town Red, which we'll do again this year, and the Market on Macomb that was part of the event last year. We produced the annual Ladies' Night Out. This year we had 18 businesses and over 200 ladies out on a very cold, wet night. We hosted annual Hooray for Halloween Parade and Trick or Treat, Lights at Lions Tree Display, and the Island Glow in conjunction with Recreation. And we collaborated with several special interest groups to host activities at Macomb Commons. This is just kind of an example, some highlights of some of the great activities we have going on down on Macomb. In 2019 and 2020, in the fiscal year, we have several projects down the pike. Most importantly is really to look at our infrastructure. We're going to work on the Macomb Street. We're calling it a master plan. It's really more a physical improvement plan, taking a look at chunks of Macomb Street and really kind of phasing it in. Lions Park and the development of what we call Lions Park right now. It will probably have a different name once we're done with it. We're really going to take a look at that and professionally developing that. And then adding some wayfinding on a small level, directional signs, brighter, bigger signs for where our parking is, kind of designating where the business district is, where the parks are. In terms of economic development, we're putting together a new business recruitment package and really kind of going after some investment on Macomb Street, and then encouraging and assisting with the current investors we have down there. Communication and marketing, we will hopefully at the end of the summer introduce the DDA website, microsite. I've been working on that for the last couple of months, putting that together. It will be a DDA-specific downtown Groseal website. We will expand the use of the GI Connect app and update the brand image and strategy. In terms of events and community engagement, we're really going to continue with the established event schedule. It works, and it's great. We're going to promote the new Market and Music on Macomb starting this summer, and we will work to bring art in a variety of forms and media to Macomb Street. So here's an example of what the events calendar is like. I did put some of these at the entryway, so if anybody wants to grab them on their way out, we'll post this on Facebook. These are the various events that we'll have going on, starting tonight with the Cake and Conversation and the DDA presentation. This is the Market and Music on Macomb. So what we're doing here this year is combining efforts. We've had wonderful concerts on the Commons for the last several years on Sunday nights in the summer, and we're going to combine those efforts from the Arts Alliance and the concerts on the Commons, and we're going to combine efforts with the Community Grown Gardens, which is Gardens of Hope, previously known as, and from 6 to 8 p.m. on Sundays, so that way we can bring more people down for the concerts. The people from the concerts will engage with the Community Grown Gardens. And that's really it for me right now. This is my contact information. If anybody has any questions about Macomb Street, feel free.
That's it, right? Okay.
That's it.
I think you've been busy, Angela.
Well, not just me. I'll say the board. We've done a lot.
Any other comments for Angela? I think I'm so glad you're working for us. We tried to run. Chairman Moran and I. Well, mostly Ron, tried to run the DDA ourselves, and we just didn't have those marketing skills, that kind of global thought of what do we need to bring to Macomb Street. So we made the decision that we need some professional help. Angela was our first choice, and we haven't let her get away. So, Angela, thank you.
Thank you.
And I will applaud it.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Now we can move to action. See you, Dunk. So now we can move to action items. We'll see how much longer Chief's here. Okay.
We'll be here.
All right, let's move into tonight's action items then. Mr. Bletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I would move to approve the following ballot language be placed on the August 6, 2019 ballot, and that is a millage renewal to maintain current police department operations. Shall the expired previously voted increase be renewed in the total tax limitation imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution in Groseal Township of 1.00 mils, that is $1 per $1,000 of taxable value, reduced to 0.9919 mils, that is 99.19 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, by the required millage rollbacks be renewed to 0.9919 mils, that is 99.19 cents per $1,000 of taxable value, and levied for a period of 5 years from 2019 through 2023 inclusive, to provide funds for the purpose of maintaining the current law enforcement operations on Groseal, specifically for police department funds, raising an estimated $618,000 in the first year the millage is approved and levied.
Okay, moved by Trustee Bletcher, seconded by Trustee Budney. Millage renewal of a police millage. Questions, comments from the board? It's up to, we put it on the ballot, and it's up to the voters to stay the safest city in Michigan.
This is an important millage, folks.
One of the benefits of living in a general law township is that these taxes are determined by the residents for the residents, and so this is your opportunity to have an impact on what services you want to pay for and you want your government to offer for you.
It is important to note that the police department is only one half of the public safety but the business model we have for public safety is that police and fire work hand in hand. Chief Murdoch would tell you that 95% of the calls that are taken are answered first by police officers because they are on the road and in the car and available. The criteria, the goals that we have is to be there as soon as possible with a target of 3 to 5 minutes for first responders, and that is anywhere and everywhere on the island. It is my recollection that each and every one of us live no more than half a mile away from a first responder, and they are there 24/7, 365 days a year. The police will start and initiate the assessments, start providing medical assistance for all of us, our families, our friends, our neighbors. If fire is there, typically with their ambulance within a couple of minutes, and then they make the appropriate arrangements for transportation off the island to the first available hospital. For some of you, that might be Beaumont. For others of you, that might be Henry Ford Wyandotte, depending upon where you live. But dispatch, police, and fire arrange for their medical services, contact the hospitals to let you know, or let them know that there are people that are in need of emergency medical attention, and they have the doors open and they're waiting for you. So the business model is a joint model with fire and police, and I urge everyone to consider that when they look at this language on the August ballot.
Thank you, Mr. Bletcher. Any other comments from the board? That pretty much wraps up half of the public safety operation, and they're inseparable. So for the board then, those in favor of approving the previously read ballot language for the August 6th primary, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None offered? That will be on the ballot. And I'm going to ask Mr. Bletcher to introduce the second half of the public safety funding question tonight.
Supervisor, I move to approve the following ballot language to be placed on the August 6, 2019 ballot, a millage renewal for the fire department. And the question is, shall the expired previously voted increase be renewed in the total tax limitation imposed under Article 9, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution in Groseal Township of 1.50 mils, that is $1.50 per $1,000 of taxable value, reduced to 1.4878 mils, that is $1.4878 per $1,000 of taxable value, by the required millage rollbacks be renewed at 1.4878 mils, $1.4878 per $1,000 of taxable value, and levied for a period of 5 years from 2019 through 2023 inclusive, to provide funds for the purpose of providing funds to operate Township Fire Department, raising an estimated $927,000 in the first year the millage is approved and levied.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Bletcher, seconded by Trustee Budney. Again, on the second half of the public safety equation, and I'll let Mr. Bletcher go into the background on this, although it's going to be very similar to the previous explanation of how public safety works.
It's going to be very similar, but there is a note of difference, and that is that our fire department is staffed very largely by volunteers. The volunteers receive a minimal amount of health care insurance for their services in exchange for being on call 24/7. The purpose of this millage is to, again, allow them to do their job, to respond to your calls for the public for any kind of medical assistance. The full-time members of the department that are paid include the chief and the deputy chief fire marshal. All of the other members are volunteers. And you'll recall Mr. Malvesto, during our monthly meetings, has indicated the number of calls that are received and responded to in a year. And this year, it is very likely we're going to be knocking on the door for 800 in a 365-day year period. That is, on average, better than 2 calls a day. Some days they have no calls. Other days they have 3, 4, or 5. And there have been times when I have been at Beaumont Hospital with relatives, and I have seen during the course of my stay the 3 ambulances coming and coming and coming from Groseal. They know the path well. They're here to help you with any medical emergencies you have. Please consider those numbers when you vote on August 6th.
I'd like to add to that of that and we'll use the 800 number because I believe that they will close in on that this year. Probably 80% of those are the rescue runs, the individual people who need help because of their health, the balance being fire runs. So the bulk of it is to take care of you, the individual, rather than you and your property. So it's very important, and they need this money.
Madam Clerk?
Well, just one last comment, and that is it's unusual for a general law township the size of Grosse Ile in the state of Michigan to have both its own fire department and its own police department. We are unusual in that regard, and we do not receive a lot of state funds to run those departments. Those departments are run because the residents of this community want and expect that level of service. And so without these millages, the chances are that we would be contracting with Wayne County for our fire and police protection. Many small townships like Grosse Ile contract with their local county for those services. And so Grosse Ile is an exception in that regard. And that's one of the reasons we have to come to you for the funds.
Thank you. Other comments from the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the previously read ballot language for the fire service to be placed on the August 6th primary ballot, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That will be on the ballot for your approval then. Moving on to action item number 3, I will absorb this one. On the 2019 summer tax levy, move that the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees levy on the taxable value of the township for the year 2019 for the tax billing period summer of 2019 a tax of 4.0 mils on the taxable value thereof, said value being $623,346,850. Okay, so moved by the supervisor, second by the treasurer. This is the sanitary sewer evaluation study, the program that put the new sewer systems in. It wasn't exactly optional. Improved the wastewater treatment plant, and it was a long process, and it was only part of the process. But anyway, it was not optional. We have to pay for it. And we put it on the ballot because we have to pay for it. I don't know what the consequences are if it doesn't pass. We're going to pay for it.
We'd levy.
We just levy it. So anyway, but I'm asking the board to put it on the on the ballot for. We're just levying it. So the board is going to approve the levy. So questions on the board, Mr. Nelson?
Brian, there's a date when the bond issue falls off. Is that part of this, correct?
About 20.
They'll start falling off in 2021, 22, 23, 24. So they're going to start falling off.
There were a series of improvements, and they were bonded,
right.
And so you will start seeing tax reductions when those bonds mature and are paid off.
Thank you.
Coming fairly soon. Thanks for that reminder, Jim.
Brian,
Sir.
Just a matter of clarification. When this bond issue was issued, we went to the taxpayers because this was kind of a mandated and unfunded mandate by the federal government to make these improvements. And so we went to the taxpayers and asked the taxpayers, which is everybody in this room, whether you wanted this on your utility bill, such as your water and sewer service, or you wanted it on your tax bill. The taxpayers of Grosse Ile chose to put this on their tax bill. So rather than seeing it on the utility bill, you're seeing it on your tax bill. It really enhanced our ability to pay this thing off relatively shortly, and we went out for a state bond on this project, which was about 2.5%, I think, at the time, which at the time was really, really a great rate. So that's how it ended up on the millage rather than the rate.
Thank you for the little history lesson. That was 2003-4 time frame.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's done. It's working. Those in favor of levying Resolving to levy on the taxable value of said township for the year 2019 for the summer tax period a tax of 4 mills on the taxable value of $623,346,850. Please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None offered. It will
I have a quick-
be so levied.
I just wanted to point out that we're going from 4.5 mils to 4 mils. So it did go down by a half a mil this year because our taxable value is going up. So we got to actually assess less mills this year.
Thank you. It's just getting better and better. Okay, thank you for passing that. We can continue to operate this sewer plant then. Let's see. Mr. Van Oss, Mr. Treasurer.
Okay. Accept with regret the retirement of Lorinda S. Beneteau, effective May 24th, 2019, as the DPS Director.
I will support with the correction at May 31st.
May 31st.
And I'm sorry I didn't get that correction to you.
24th here, 31st.
May 31st. So
You got to work a couple of more days on it.
yeah, we're not done with you yet.
The second part of this is a certificate of appreciation and announcement, and I will save the audience listening to my voice for 20 minutes and ask Uta if she would kindly make that presentation.
Thank you so
Should we
much.
accept the resignation first and then do the certificate, do the appreciation? Let's do it that way. So those in favor of accepting with regret Ms. Beneteau's retirement,
What
please.
if we don't accept her?
Well, we'll have a chance to vote. Those in favor of accepting her retirement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Headley, aye.
Decidedly aye. Okay, opposed? I none offered. Ms. O'Connor, would you be so kind?
Thank you so much. It's a real honor to do this because Lorinda basically showed me the ropes when I first got elected some 20 years ago, and we've been here a long time, and she's come a long way in her career. I am just incredibly proud of you and what you've done. So this is the official resolution, but from my heart, I know you have done a lot for this township. You have done a lot for the staff of this township. You've been the glue of this family. And so I don't know if we'll have another witch on Halloween. We're just going to have to learn to live that. Whereas Lorinda Beneteau has served 25 years as a dedicated employee of the Township of Grosse Ile. And whereas during her employment with the Township of Grosse Ile, Lorinda Beneteau has served in various positions, which include Building Department Office Manager, Zoning Administrator, Assistant DPS Director, and most recently, DPS Director. And whereas Lorinda Beneteau acquired the following certifications: Citizen Planning Advanced Academy, Michigan Public Service Institute, Federal Emergency Management Agency Training, and State of Michigan Water Operator Licenses S1, S2, S3, and S4. And whereas Lorinda Beneteau has provided tremendous support to the Township of Grosse Ile, including the Department of Public Services Commission, the Planning Commission, and the Zoning Board of Appeals in the most professional and conscientious manner throughout her tenure with the Township of Grosse Ile. And whereas the Township Board of Trustees regretfully accepts the retirement of Lorinda Beneteau, now therefore be it proclaimed on this date, May 13, 2019, the Township of Grosse Ile does honor and thank Lorinda Beneteau for her commitment and dedication to our island community.
Well, I didn't expect all that. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I've grown up here. Tears. And I told myself I wouldn't cry. But heartfelt. I've known most of you throughout my career. A lot of you started on the commission or the planning commission with me at one point in your careers as well. You have a dedicated family here, that's for sure, as well as a board. And I appreciate the support of my staff and the managers as well. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Advisor, if I may, I'd just like to say I will truly, truly miss Lorinda. I've been the DPS liaison for since I started on the board 6+ years ago. I truly enjoyed working with Lorinda. She's a fine, fine person, and I will truly miss her. And we've had, what I love about Lorinda is she speaks her piece. If she doesn't agree with you, she doesn't agree with you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I love you, Lorinda, and I'm really wish you all the best in retirement.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Well, Mr. Treasurer?
Just a couple of comments. Lorinda and I go back a long ways. And you've helped me through my endeavors. I hope I've helped you through yours. It's been a pleasure and an honor to work with you, and I just want to thank you.
I think that obviously that goes for all of us. You kept a lot of things running through some lean times and made some improvements in the times when we could afford it. So, again, thanks, Lorinda. So, enjoy your retirement. Let's get back to running the township and bring us to the next action item, Mr. Treasurer.
All right. From the sad to the happy, I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Derek M. Teal as a full-time at-will department manager of the Public Service Director at an annual salary of $80,000 a year.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Budney. Obviously, we have a position to fill. So, yeah. Mr. Treasurer, you want to, if you can...
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've known Derek. I worked with Derek. In fact, I kind of was on a committee that brought him on board as the airport director. I worked with him as... I've been around long enough that I've worked with just about everybody, so I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's true. And he's really, really expanded his knowledge and his ventures moving on. We had a committee of Trustee Budney, myself, Chairman Bill Kostick, and Manager Dale Riem that looked over the interviews of several people, the resumes of several people. And Derek just shined. He just came out no holds barred. He was, without a doubt, the best employee for the job. We offered him the job. Gibraltar's going to miss him because he had a big position in Gibraltar, and he wanted to come back home, and this is his home. This is where he kind of started out. So I, as one for one, welcome him and looking forward to many years of service from Derek.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Other comments from the board? Mr. Budney?
Yeah, I too obviously want to welcome Derek aboard. I certainly look forward to working with him. And it was his broad knowledge base that made him shine above the other very competent people who put in. I will start out by wishing him the best, but I believe he'll do fine and make us proud. Welcome aboard, Derek.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Other comments? I think we're all looking forward to Derek coming back to the township, and I'm sure we'll get plenty of work out of him. With that, those in favor of hiring Derek Thiel is the full-time at-will Department of Public Services Director at an annual salary of $80,000. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Well, Derek, welcome back. Welcome aboard. You may.
Mr. Township Manager, is it possible that we can turn some air conditioning on in this room? I'm seeing fans going, and we're melting.
That's kind of bringing us to action item number 6.
Perfect.
Good timing.
Perfect.
In case we were thinking about not funding this,
Great lead on.
I'll turn that over to you, Mr. Treasurer.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to award the Township Hall HVAC unit replacement to temperature control in the amount of $21,815.
Support.
Okay, moved by the Treasurer, seconded by Trustee Budney to now pick it up. What we're going to do.
Basically, one of the units in Township Hall, the units in Township Hall are now switching past the 20-year mark. We may be seeing a few more of these come in, but this particular unit has kind of lived its effective life. And so this is the number they refer to as number 4. And this will be, I believe it's a 5-year limited warranty, 1-year parts and labor warranty, 5-year parts warranty, 1-year labor warranty, and we'll move on this immediately because the unit is ineffective. It's not working at all.
And it's getting into summertime.
That's exactly right.
Questions from the board?
Well, and we want all our residents to be comfortable when they come to our meetings.
Okay, with that, anything else? I mean, these things sometimes you have to fix them, sometimes you have to replace them. They only last for so long. Those in favor of awarding the Township Hall heating, ventilating, air conditioning unit replacement to temperature control in the amount of $21,815, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None offered. That will happen.
It's amazing to think we've been in this building for 20 years. It has flown by. I still remember the debates, go, Hangar 1, and when we decided to move down here, and that just seemed like yesterday, but almost 20 years. It's incredible.
Along those lines, Uda, I've only been on the board 6 years, and it seems like 20. So.
Seems like 20.
Okay, let's move on to action item number 7. Obviously, a very contentious situation has been foisted upon us. There's been call for a resolution for a township position on happenings in another community. Puts us in a challenging position. So I'm going to read the resolution, and it's a combination of a resolution proposed by Trustee Budney, review on myself, Kirk O'Connor, and Trustee Bletcher, compiling a resolution that contains those things that we can do and deleting the things we cannot do. So this is a resolution that I'm comfortable voting on. I'm comfortable presenting to our contemporaries in Trenton and Riverview and the EPA. So I will read the resolution. And first of all, I'll ask for the motion after the second. So I'm going to move we approve this resolution to protect the interests of the residents of Grosse Ile Township during the McLeod site redevelopment. Whereas the potential use and development of the former McLeod Steel site will impact the quality of life of Grosse Ile residents, and whereas the current property owner, Crown Enterprises, has developed a plan for an intermodal transportation operation on the site, which could result in increased truck, train, and vessel traffic in the area, and whereas increased truck and train traffic in the local area could negatively impact the lives of our residents through congestion and increased road damage, and whereas increased vessel passages on the Trenton Channel could result in more frequent closures of the Grosse Ile toll bridge to vehicular traffic and increase the potential for damage to the bridge structure, which would further restrict access to Grosse Ile. Now therefore be it resolved that the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees hereby petitions the City of Trenton to deny any operation on that site that will adversely impact the air and water quality of the residents of Grosse Ile and all nearby residents of Riverview and Trenton. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees petitions the City of Trenton to consider enacting ordinances to manage and control vehicular traffic and to preclude unnecessary noise from cargo handling operations between 11 o'clock p.m. and 6:30 p.m. That's the extent. A.M. That now is the extent of the resolution. Discussion among the board. Obviously, Mrs. O'Connor,
You
a
want
hot
support-
topic.
A support?
Support.
Support.
Support from Trustee Buddy. Thank you. Mrs. O'Connor.
See, we're all learning our procedures, and I think we're all very excited that as a board, we worked on this together. We heard from our residents. We heard from all of you. We hear you. And we know that our hands are tied on some levels, but we have to act in any way that we can. And we put our heads together and our pens together, and I'm really excited that we were able to put out this proposal. I really do have to stop right now because someone has just walked into the room about 3 minutes too late.
Our newest employee.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Derek Teal. He is our new Public Works Director.
Yeah.
And look,
Welcome
he
aboard.
steps right up.
That's Derek. That's the best deer in the headlights look I've seen.
And Derek, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to dock your pay for being
That's all right.
We're just going to pause our action item right now so Derek can say a few words.
Introduce yourself. Derek. It's good to see you back.
My apologies for being late. That we have our Gibraltar has our city council meeting the same night that the township does. So I was at my own council meeting, and I mentioned to Dale I regretted that I couldn't make the meeting tonight to be able to at least be here for my action item. But nonetheless, I'm glad I could at least come in late. A little bit about me for the residents, because I'm sure it's on TV, but graduated from Central Michigan University back in 2004, my undergrad in public administration. Went on to receive my master's degree in public administration. The township brought me on board from 2006 until 2012. I was the airport and Commerce Park manager. I left in 2012 to go to Gibraltar, and I've been their city administrator for the past 7 years. When the opportunity came up to apply for the position of DPW director, with Lorinda retiring, I applied, and I appreciate you guys having confidence in me to run the department. And I promise I won't let you down. I'll do the best job that I can for the residents of Gibraltar. I'm sorry. Of Groseal, and I always maintain an open door policy. So if there are any residents of the township that would like to discuss any of the issues that pertain to DPW, feel free to stop on by and bend my ear. So, do you have any questions of me? None?
Welcome.
We will have plenty.
I can tell you, it probably took me a good year to transition from from township board to city council, and from township to city. So, and Groseal and Gibraltar, so they both start with G. So I'm going to have to. It's going to take me a little while. You have to bear with me while I make that adjustment. So, but,
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Back, Derek.
Welcome on board.
What's that? No, it was not intentional. Not intentional. I wasn't trying to make a joke or anything.
Well, and
so.
Derek, now that you're here, are there some people in the audience you would like to introduce to the township?
I don't know. I didn't. Yeah, my family's here, as a matter of fact. Yeah, so.
Andy has a sense of humor.
A little bit. So thank you very much. Like I said, if there are any questions, if the residents have any questions, feel free to call on me. I don't know if you guys discussed starting, but I'll be here right in the middle of June, June 17th. I have a contract with Gibraltar that requires a 30-day notice, so I have to put that in, which I actually put in my resignation this evening. So my official 30-day time frame starts tomorrow. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Welcome on board.
Welcome back, Derek.
So now we're going to unpause.
Yeah.
But I think that was worthwhile, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It's really exciting news. I mean, it's hard to miss somebody you've worked with for a long time, but it's just good to bring back somebody we all enjoyed working with in the past.
No surprises.
So it's very good. Hopefully. And I think you know what you're getting into, and but you're well qualified to guide the way. And so I'm excited. The resolution that we've crafted for tonight to give to the city of Trenton, I just want to say to everybody here listening, it's a first step. This isn't going to solve anything. This, Trenton can ignore it if they want, but they can also listen to us. They can work with us. And in the past, we've had a very good relationship with the city of Trenton, and we've managed to get many things done and averted a number of crises and different situations that have faced us in the past. One of our neighbors pointed out to me when Chrysler wanted to close down Van Horn. And the board and the city and the residents, we all worked together with Chrysler, and we were able to successfully keep Van Horn open. I hope that we are all in it for the long haul, because it's not just going to take board action. It's going to take each and every one of us being engaged with the process, going to their meetings and making sure our voices are heard. We have to engage the media and write letters and engage our neighbors and get them involved as well. What we're doing here tonight is a first step, and I hope you see it as a step in the right direction, and we will continue together to move forward. You've got some excellent leaders in this community coming forward, making sure that we heard your voices. So this is really an exciting time for us to move forward.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Again, okay, great.
I just really emphasize that this is just a beginning, and that it is certainly for anyone on this board who votes for this needs to be prepared to continue to be diligent, watching this and taking action. It is not a final step. It's a first step. We have to continue to be engaged. When we get reports, we have to read them, and if there's something that isn't right, we have to bring it to the proper people's attention. Now, we are on everybody's list that I know of. I mean, for the city of Trenton, EPA, we're getting their reports, we're getting their updates, but we have to read them and we have to react to them. Thank you for all the residents who have stepped up and said something about this, but we need your continued participation also. We need to hear from you. And I've gotten a lot of emails of late regarding this, and I encourage you to continue that. There may be something out there that we don't see that you do. We want to hear about it. So thank you for your involvement to this point.
So,
Brian?
I'm sorry, Mr. Bletcher?
If I may, it was noted earlier that the resolution was a compendium of thoughts by a number of the trustees and the board members here. It is important, however, that we all look at and understand, to follow up on what Jim was saying, the impact is on both the citizens of Groseal and the citizens of Trenton. When you think about a SEMCOG memo that was out in 2001, and granted that's 18 years ago and that's dated, but I don't expect that when the Riverview Trenton Railroad Company created an analysis and bought that property, SEMCOG came out and said that they should expect 140 trucks initially to a maximum of 300 per day, approximately 25 trucks per hour, or one every 2 minutes exiting that property. The other thing that we have to look at, second thing, is that there would equate to not only truck traffic, but 2 trains a day, as noted in that SEMCOG memo, with a maximum train length of 100 cars. Each car is approximately 80 feet. That is a maximum of 8,000 feet on a 100-car train twice a day leaving that facility. We also look at bridge closures. The average bridge closure for a ship coming in to that facility and exiting that facility is about 25 minutes with the toll bridge. And I would hope that the city of Trenton would go ahead and recognize what kind of impact that has on the citizens of Trenton and certainly on the citizens of Groseal. That is a lot of time. And I would hope that they would look at and say, we're going to have a schedule. We're not going to close the bridge between certain hours, if that can be worked out with some kind of a agreement between McLeod Steel Site and the city of Trenton. And we also have to look at the third thing being the air and water quality there, as well as the noise. It affects our quality of life. For those of you that live on West River, I live on Ferry and Park Lane. And I remember the good old days when that steel would come sliding out of the mill and hit the water and explode, and we would see the fireworks at night and hear the crack and the boom that was associated with that. That went on all hours of the day and into the night. I don't look forward to repeating that experience, and I would hope we would not. I am hoping that everyone that took the time to come here tonight would also consider going to the Planning Commission when Trenton has a site review for the redistricting of that property, and ask for some kind of conditions regarding trains and ships passing, so that we don't have backups of a half an hour, 40 minutes on that toll bridge or at those railroad crossings. So please, the enthusiasm you have here tonight, come and be a part of the process. Be a part of the process with the Planning Commission there. And finally, I will go so far as to say that I've met with a member of the Trenton City Council. He has indicated that there is a degree of enthusiasm within the city of Trenton, certainly within parts of the government there, where they're looking at this and saying that it's not just about jobs. It's not just about bringing 50, 70, 100, maybe 150 jobs here. It's about quality of life. And it's about quality of life for everyone that is affected. It's not just the people on Grosse Ile, it is the people in Trenton as well, the congestion on the roads, the congestion that's caused by the trucks, the congestion that's caused by the trains, and all of the other assorted noise pollution, water pollution, and air pollution. So please be involved. Bring your enthusiasm. Come to the Trenton Planning Commission. Come to the Trenton meetings when the town council is considering what to do with this, and be heard, because they are good neighbors. They've treated us well in the past. They care. They get it. And the councilman indicated to me that he felt very comfortable with a resolution and would encourage and ask that his people in Trenton, his council and his planning commission, recognize what this does. So please be a part of the process. Come and join them.
Well, where do we go from here? I've just got to, I don't think anybody spent more time than me with Trenton, with the EPA, with researching what's going on, what's potentially going on there. There's a lot of background information, a lot of superfluous information, a lot of false information out there. I don't know how to clean it up. What we can do is contained in this resolution. We can't control the rail traffic. We can't control the vessel traffic. We can't tell Trenton what they can do with their property. We can't come up with $150 million to remediate that site to residential standards that many of us would like to see. It is now officially, the release was out today. I was there for the release from the EPA. The site is on the Superfund list, the national priorities list. That's going to start a very long process. Try to break this down in simplistic terms. Everything above the ground that's getting demolished, removed, remediated is Crown Enterprise, their dollars. Who knows what's going to be, I'm going to say off the top of my head, in the neighborhood of $20 to $30 million to get the buildings, the 47 structures that were there. Some of the groundwater pooling is their responsibility to get that cleaned up. So those sources of air, water pollution, you got to think, remember the air is coming from the west east, from west east. So it's those standing structures, whatever pollutants were there, were being carried airborne to Grosse Ile. That will stop in the next, 20 months left on demolition. That will be stopped. Some of the surface groundwater was part of the purchase agreement. That will be Crown Enterprises' responsibility to clean that up. Once you go below the ground surface into the soil contamination, that's EPA, that's the 150 million potential dollars coming from the Superfund to clean that up to non-residential standards. The EPA has two standards, residential, I've said this many times, residential and non-residential. There is no park standard. There is no commercial use standard. It's residential or non-residential. In the purchase agreement, non-residential was what Crown Enterprises and the EPA and the City of Trenton and Wayne County all agreed upon. So that's the standard they're going to. That is going to be expensive. It's going to be timely. They have bermed the surface. There is no rainwater, stormwater runoff into the river. The testing has shown that I could get out of Brian Kelly today, no leaching, because it's a big seawall, a big seawall hold everything back, so there's no measurable contamination into the river right now. The ground is contained until it's going to be dug up, removed, remediated. All of this is starting. It's going to be a very long process. With that, again, SEMCOG's projections of 2001 were just projections. Treasurer Van Ost did some research on the Port of Los Angeles, dramatically bigger than anything that's going to happen at the 1,700-foot deepwater Port of Trenton, and their trucks per day less than 100. A lot of rail, but less than 100 trucks. Are the rail lines a problem? They're a problem all over southeast Michigan. The solution is not going to be more grade separations because we're not going to get them. I continue to recommend, write your congressman. Debbie Dingell knows this is important to me. Write to Gary Peters, write to Debbie Stabenow, and get control of the railroads back from the federal government to the states. State legislature can pass legislation like we did have until CSX versus City of Plymouth. The state had a statute. They couldn't block a roadway for more than 10 minutes, or they got fined, and the fines ratcheted up, and they paid attention. They paid enough attention, it was worth it to hire a bunch of attorneys and take it to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the railroads because that was federal law. Federal law can be changed to kick that back to the states. That alleviates, or potentially alleviates, rail closures in our area. That would affect the McLeod site, the Allen Road, the Woodhaven that did not pass in Van Horn Road in Woodhaven that didn't pass their voters. The problems Plymouth has, the problems New Boston has. It's just the better way to get a hold of it, and it's only going to happen if we continue to petition our federal legislators. We do not control, nor can Trenton control, vessel traffic on the river. That's the Coast Guard responsibility. We can ask them not to. We want to make sure the bridge is kept safe. We can keep our eyes on them. But the threat that there's going to be 30 bridge swings a day for commercial vessel traffic, I don't know where that number was generated from. 1,700 foot of deepwater port can handle 2 standard Great Lakes vessels at any one time. Unless they're doing bulk unloading, which does not seem to be what they're interested here with the self-unloaders, you're talking probably 48 hours to unload a vessel. So, the commercial vessel bridge swings, you might be at peak, maybe 10 a week. So the 30 a day, again, there was a lot of fear-mongering going on, but that's much closer to the reality. And the recreational boats swing the bridge a lot more than the commercial vessels will. We will be petitioning the Coast Guard to keep a close eye on the ships transiting that area. We will be fighting to protect the Grosse Ile Toll Bridge. That is our other means of entrance and exit from the island, our access, while we're concurrently working with Wayne County to get the Wayne County Bridge repaired. There's a lot of stuff bubbling up to the surface, but for us to demand Trenton do something other with that property, keeping in mind that they lost that tax revenue from the McLeod site. They're about to lose the tax revenue from the DTE power plant. They have bills to pay too, and we're not going to get everything we hope for. It's not going to be as good as we hope for. It's not going to be as bad as we feared. The contamination will be removed. It's going to be a long, long process, though. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next year, and not within the remainder of this decade. It is a long process, but it's a movement in the right direction. I know that's not what a lot of you wanted to hear. That's the reality, and I'll be back talking to Trenton tomorrow because they're going to want to know what exactly we expect out of this resolution. But again, speaking with Mr. Wagner, Scott Church, Mayor Stack, a couple members of the city council today, this is the direction they have to go. It's best for them. It will be the best for us. And I also found out some of the other things that were proposed for that site in years past. Another blast furnace. That was rejected by the city of Trenton. So the more I peel back this onion, the less worried I am about where this is going. I can't say I'm happy. Certainly, I'd like to see what Jerry Brown had proposed for the mixed-use development, residential, commercial, and marina, but nobody was going to cough up the money to remediate that site to those standards. Crown Enterprises is run by Matthew Maroon Jr., or not Jr., but Matthew Maroon, the younger, who's taken over these operations. He has demonstrated much, in my opinion, much more amenable to working with communities. The Fiat Chrysler plant deal, he got the land to Maroon held properties to Fiat Chrysler so they could expand the plant. I forget exactly where it's been in the news, but facilitated that happening. Hopefully that interoperability, that mutual beneficial relationship will continue in this operation in Trenton. I'm sure there's going to be questions in the public comment period. You know where I stand now. I'll be glad to answer any question. Again, it may not be the answer you want to hear. I'm just going to give you the facts as I know them as of right now. Other comments from the board? Did I talk long enough? Sorry, I just didn't mean to get on a rant, but I've been following this 20 hours out of the day and just to get the best deal we can.
Well, it's just the beginning, and we're all in it together.
All right, with that, those in favor of approving the resolution as previously read to forward to the City Council of Trenton, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you so much, the board. Again, we got minds together on this, and we're bringing input on things we can control, and we're trying to get help on the things we can't. With that, let me move on to action item number 8. That pile of stuff. Mr. Treasurer.
I'm back. This is a propose a motion for based on approval of the Airport Commerce Park Commission, Airport Commerce Park Manager, that the Airport Commerce Park Group purchase a lawnmower, which would be a Grasshopper D725D, and it's based on bids submitted by JR Tractor at the amount of $14,625, and that is a government bid. It comes from the government purchasing group, so it is the lowest bid out there. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Support.
Okay, moved by the treasurer, seconded by Trustee Budney for the purchase of the lawnmower at the airport. Stuff wears out, and we have a lot of grass to cut. Comments from the board?
And Mr. Duker indicated to me that in the last year or so he's had to take parts off of the other mowers to keep a mower going, and you just can't keep doing that forever. Obviously, it's going to have to be replaced. So it's something that has to be done, and it is a what's it called? The Commerce Park is a self-supporting entity, so, that's a good thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It is not a general fund expenditure. It's self-contained within the funding of the Commerce Park and the airport.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, got to cut the grass, which reminds me about my lawn. Those in favor of approving the purchase based on the recommendation of the Commerce Park Commerce Park manager and the commission to purchase a Grasshopper 725D based on a bid submitted by JR Tractor at $14,625 from airport funds, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None offered. We'll send Duker out with our checkbook. That concludes tonight's action items. We can move into reports. Madam Clerk.
Thank you so much. So a little bit more than usual. quite a few things have been going on in our little clerk's office as we are ramping up for a special election in August. First of all, before I get started, I did want to introduce our newest employee, Elena Farmer. If you would just come up to the podium for a moment. We hired Elena. Oh, no. No. I work with my deputy.
He's got to raise it all the way up now.
Where's the little switch at? I don't come here with it.
I'll go
I try to stay away from this place. I'll just lean over. Elena's now been with us just over a month in the clerk's office. She's picking up things very quickly. I will say that she is learning that we offer a lot of services in the clerk's office, that every day there's something new. That like even today a woman came in and asked about code enforcement book, and Lena's like, what's that? What do we do with that? So we do a lot. So she is picking up quickly, and obviously with an election coming up, she's got some online courses she's been doing, and she has some in-person courses that she will be attending here in the future to get prepared for that. So,
okay. Well, and Elena, I wanted you to meet our board members and our board members to meet you, and the residents who are watching on television. Of course, we don't always pack a room like this at a board meeting. This is quite unusual, but there may be times too when you might be asked to come in and substitute for Brian and taking the minutes and so forth. If you would just like to say a few words.
I'm Elena. I'm from Monroe. I graduated from Erie Mason and then went to community college.
You'll have to speak up just a little louder. Huh?
I've worked numerous positions in customer service and office positions. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, we're very happy to have you. Welcome aboard. And as you know, our Deputy Clerk Sharon Gray retired almost a year ago, and Brian has been doing a phenomenal job keeping our office running on a staff of one and sometimes a half. And now with Elena on board, you can see the changes that are happening in our office. And the first thing I'm really excited about, and you may have noticed downstairs, is the new electronic signboard that Brian has set up outside the clerk's office. And it's only getting ramped up now, but part of what it now shows you is the people in our clerk's office. So we're putting names and faces together that you know who to ask for what. We are informing the residents of the various duties of our staff and our department. And we are including information about voter information, our passport processing, our notary public services, access to the Grosse Ile Connect app and social media, and the Township board meeting schedule and different holidays coming up. The goal that Brian has set forth is to add a second screen during election season to be dedicated solely to providing absentee voting instructions. So during the election season, once we're allowed to issue absent voter ballots, you are allowed to vote those in the clerk's office. And when you come in to pick up an absent voter application or your ballot, you have a chance to review some of the instructions on the screen. One of the things that we've worked on is for the probably, I don't know if we'll have it ready for August, but definitely for November, we're adding a second absent voter counting board so that we will have two teams counting the absent voter ballots, because that has increased quite a lot over the years. So speaking of the election, we are also looking to hire election inspectors, both for August 6, 2019, the special election, and obviously we're looking for those people to train in advance of the big 2020 national federal elections. Those are huge, and we need a lot of poll inspectors, a lot of volunteers to make that happen. I like the way that Brian put this in my notes. Make some new friends, enjoy donuts and pizza on the township, and make a few extra dollars. We do pay a per diem for our poll inspectors and our chair people. But we have to have all of the inspectors for August appointed by July 1st. So if you are interested, if you are 16 and older and a resident of Wayne County, call us at Township Hall. Talk to Elena, talk to Brian, send us an email, and say that you're interested in applying. We have training dates coming up. July 15th through 19th, we'll be doing the inspector training. July 22nd through 24th, we are doing the electronic poll book training. And that is one of the things that we often like to involve high school kids or students who are out of school for the season, because they tend to be much more comfortable using the electronic media. And over the years, a lot of our younger poll inspectors have developed friendships with some of our senior poll inspectors. So it creates a nice sense of community on Election Day. So I have one more thing that I want to talk about, and I see Woody's already looking at me, but this is Woody's big topic. This is your favorite topic, Woody. Dump the junk, right? Isn't that your big thing? Dump the junk. Woody was not there this year because he's retired from that activity, but it was this weekend, and it was amazing. And Cliff St. Pierre is not here to talk about it, and so I said I would say a few words. He clocked over 500 cars in one afternoon that came through the DPS yard. We filled, I think it was 15, thank you, Lorinda. See, that we're going to need that kind of help coming up. 15 giant dumpsters with tires, with trash, with lumber, with metal, and the treasure. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Someone would unload a piece of treasure from a car, and somebody would be right there picking it up, putting it back in their car. So a huge amount of stuff was upcycled during this activity. And I just wanted to thank, on behalf of Cliff and the committees that worked on this, all the volunteers that put in the time, and encourage anyone else who enjoyed the service that we're always looking for volunteers, and that it actually is a really, really fun day. And I believe Hungry Howie's and Kroger's provided refreshments, and I thought that was very, very nice of them to do as well. And so that's it for today.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Brian. The investment report for the month is not ready. It'll be ready in April. However, all of your investments can be viewed on my website, which gives you a total breakdown of all the money that we have invested. In early June, Wayne County is going to start sending out the taxes due letters to the property owners who failed to pay their 2018 property taxes. Interest, by the way, is calculated by the month, per month, so it is wise to pay that up as soon as possible. If your taxes went to the county delinquent, contact the Grosse Ile treasurer, talk to Annette, and she'll help you through the process of getting those things up to date. 2019 annual dog park passes are available to the residents and non-residents. The fee is $10 and $20 respectively. All resident dog must be licensed with Grosse Ile. Non-residents must show proof of current rabies shots, vaccinations, and obtain a dog park pass. The Commerce Park meeting will be held on the 20th, which is third Monday, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I'm going to move the schedule around a little bit. I'd like for Mr. Budney to give his presentation. Then I want him to get out of here, to get home, and get his eyes healing. Mr. Budney?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I do appreciate that. Very brief. No ZBA meeting tomorrow. No DPS meeting tomorrow. No ZBA meeting this month. Our next question and answer session will be Wednesday, June 26th at 6 o'clock in this room. And before I depart, since I won't be here for the discussion, I would just like to say that I support both items that will be discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Drive safely, and cool shades, yeah.
Yeah, next time you see me, they'll be gone.
Good, hopefully. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Brian. I'm the liaison to the Rec Department Commission and to the Festival Commission. And because she's wonderful what she does, I'll let Kim come up here and tell you all about Rec and Festival.
Good evening. I know it's been a long night, and if I stayed up here and talked about everything in this book, we'd be here till midnight. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. The Grosse Ile profile is the reflection of the Recreation Department for the Township. It is the Bible to the quality of life on this island. So if you have any questions about any programming, my name is Kim O'Farrell. I'm your Recreation Director, and you can contact me at the office or email, and everything is in the book. And if you have not received your profile, we have extra copies all throughout the township, here at Township Hall, Water's Edge, Post Office, throughout the town. We have the book as well. And also, I know Chad could not be here tonight, but we are very, very excited for Island Fest, 3 weeks away. May 31st, June 1st, and 2nd. Also, the schedule of events is posted on GrosseIleIslandFest.com, and we are still searching for volunteers. Chad told me to beg and plead with anyone that's watching. We definitely need volunteers. We run that weekend all on volunteers, and I want to thank both the Recreation Commission and the Island Fest Commission for their hard work this year, and a special thank to Chad Novak, our chairman. I don't know how he does it, but just a special thank you to him. So that's all I have. And the next CRC meeting is next Thursday. We have moved our time from 6 o'clock to 6:30. Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, I would like to take this time to note that Ms. O'Farrell will be here 2 years on May 15th, and I want to say thank you for all of the hard work and all of the results that you've achieved in those 2 years. It's remarkable, Kim. Look forward to another 28 years. Thank you.
And that's your complete,
good, yeah.
You're good? Yeah, well, then, Mr. Bletcher, you can pick up right there.
Tough act to follow, Mr. Supervisor, but I have the privilege of sitting on 3 different commissions in order of alphabet. The first one is Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. 2 matters. One is that we did have a Bike to School Day last Wednesday. I drove by the Meridian School on my way to work, and normally I see maybe a dozen bicycles on the rack. I saw 75, maybe 80 there that day, just a quick estimate. And all of the schools had similar attendance, and it was remarkable. All of the children got to school without any issues. The bike paths were well used, and it was a terrific day in terms of those kinds of results and accomplishment. Everybody managed to get to school. They got home, and it was just a great day, and we encourage everyone to use the bicycle paths, not just on Bike to School Day, but every day that weather permits. The second thing is, and Clerk O'Connor indicated that we did have some other activities. I'm going to reserve the dump the junk for open space, but I do want to mention that with respect to BPAC, we had a public meeting regarding possible connections of the Meridian bike path, the one that runs the spine of Grosse Ile, if you will, from Horse Mill to Grow Road. And there were questions about what we could do to connect that trail to the Grosse Ile County Bridge, and then across the bridge to the trails there that ultimately link up with the Iron Bell Trail, which is some 600 miles that runs from just below Grosse Ile all the way up to the Upper Peninsula. Some 600 miles. There were some options that were considered. We had approximately 23 people in attendance. Various options were considered, including what's commonly recognized but little known as Douglas Drive, which is that alley road behind the homes on the north side of Parkway. We looked at new bike paths on the north side of Parkway, the south side of Parkway, expanding the shoulder as well as all other options that would allow for safe use of bicycles along Parkway. There was even a citizen that threw out the idea of perhaps closing Bellevue or restricting the use of Bellevue for bicycles that would allow access by bicyclists from Meridian down Bellevue to ultimately to Water's Edge. So there was a significant amount of public input. There is no money for those projects right now, but as the money hopefully develops in the future, the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission now has a good flavor as to what the township's citizens want to do, and most importantly, what they don't want to do. The second commission that I sit on is the Open Space Greenways, and Clerk O'Connor indicated some of the numbers and the activities that we had. I'd like to present the following. Number one, that program ran for some 7 hours from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. last Saturday. There were 15 30-yard dumpsters that were filled. We had 20 volunteers working. There were officially 508 vehicles that were counted coming into the yard, and they left 70 tires in addition to those dumpsters. Now, we look at that as waste that's not going to be in the open space. Tires and other matters, including lumber, brush, metal, that are going to be disposed of in an environmentally responsible way. And I just want to take this time right now to specifically thank Lorinda, your department, and most specifically John Keim, Derry Dion, and Donna Deppa for all the great work that they did. They were there. John was there until after 5 o'clock filling the last of the dumpsters. We also had, again, as Uta noted, donations from Hungry Howie's. They sent pizza over. We had pizza in the morning, pizza in the afternoon, a nice way of saying thank you to all of those residents that came out and volunteered. We also had 2 employees from Campo Brothers who were there for some 6.5 hours, unpaid, just volunteering, saying thank you. And I think that's probably a great recognition of what Campo Brothers has done for Groseal, what they do for the township. Now they have 2 employees coming over there and helping the other 20 volunteers. I would like to take at this time and recognize the previous chairman for starting this program was Woody Clark. He headed that program for a number of years, twice a year, and as well as Chairman Cliff St. Pierre, who is the head of that commission. And most importantly, our new commission member, Dan Jastre, who organized it, did a terrific job. Dan was exciting when we interviewed for people for that commission. Dan's excitement was just contagious. I left the meeting, the interview, with a headache. He's that good. He's that exciting. I think he's kind of like Chad's younger brother, perhaps. The guy has just an unbounded amount of energy. So again, thanks to John, thanks to Jerry and Donna, Lorinda, for all of the things that your people were able to do, Campo Brothers as well as Kroger and Hungry Howie's for their donations. The second portion of the report involves the Tittle property. That has received a clean environmental report. I've spoken with Township Attorney Assorti. He's indicated that it is most likely we will be able to close on that purchase of that property within the next 3 weeks. That will allow us to link the bike paths and the trails from the northern part of the island, east of the canal, all the way down to Ferry Road, and then a jog on Park Lane, and then down to Centennial Farm, and ultimately to the soccer field. So we're pretty excited about that. Finally, I have the pleasure of sitting on the police department. You heard earlier a motion that was made for a millage renewal, and I'd like you to think about the millage renewal in light of some of the following statistics. And this is just for the month of April. We had 8 operating while impaired arrests. People out there driving, drunk, above the limit, a threat and a danger to everyone there, not just the kids on the bicycle, but to all of the parents and all of the people that are out there walking, driving, and using their bicycles. We also had 184 verbal warnings that were issued. We just don't issue tickets. We look at them and say, can you please slow down? Can you use your turn signals? Can you turn, follow, and obey the traffic signs? So we also had 2 felony arrests. Our officers drove 13,293 miles. In addition to that, we had a sum total of 59 animal calls for our animal control officer to come and pick up animals, dead animals, stray animals, animals that are donated, all of the animal issues. That's about 2 a day. We had 42 rescue calls. We had 681 calls for general assistance. We had 82 911 calls, 13 lodgings. Our calls totaled 1,012 for the month of April. It's a lot of hard work, and when you see our officers out there, you know they're doing their job, and we thank you for your support. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bletcher. You've been busy. Let's move on to Township Attorney's report. Mr. Sorty? We can move. Armed with that knowledge, Mr. Riem?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. A few brief items to report. Monday, May 27th is Memorial Day, and Township Hall will be closed for business. So please make note of that. In relationship to the comments about the Island Fest schedule, and Ms. O'Farrell suggesting to bag for volunteers, I want to comment on volunteers. Trustee Bletcher talked about Saturday being in excess because there were 20 volunteers. We are a small staff in this organization, so the volunteers are the bread and butter of this community, and I think that's a big part of the fabric of the community as well. So I would encourage everyone to do just that and volunteer at Island Fest weekend, whether you're selling wristbands, helping park cars, or working the information tent. The staff would very, very, very much appreciate it. Again, we are a small staff. We are not. I always joke we're one and a half deep, and everyone knows Margie. She's not only assistant to me, assistant to the assessor, assistant to the supervisor, and the rest of the board. So, and speaking of Margie, she accomplished her next certification this morning, and she has, I believe now it's one more class and one more online examination. So working very hard. So let's see, our next township board meeting will be June 10th because of the holiday, so we'll be off a bit. And the DPS meeting that was canceled for tomorrow has been rescheduled to June 3rd, and that'll be here in this room. I could say a lot about Lorinda, but I'll save that for her goodbye party. But I do want to say is the hard work that she's done, the positive energy she's brought, the strength, I believe Mr. Bundy talked about. Lorinda will speak her mind, and she does. And she has a wonderful way of doing that, but not being negative. And sometimes you got to, put a little zing in your step. And but everything she does, she's done for the love of her job, and she knows that our commodity here is service to the community, and she's done a great job of that. And she's done a great job of that, teaching that to her employees as well. And it's been wonderful to work with her for the 25 years she's been here. So, Lorinda, thank you. Mr. Thiel, welcome. Very, very glad to have you back. Derek and I worked together, obviously, when he was here at the airport. And I want to say and affirm very strongly, out of the candidates that we received, when we received some very good candidates, Mr. Thiel was by far the best candidate. Not only the knowledge of the technicalities of running the Department of Public Services, but his administrative background, his cultural sensitivity, and his knowledge of just what it takes to work in this type of environment. So very, very glad, and welcome again. And last but not least, Chief Warnick is not in the audience tonight because today is his birthday, so happy birthday, Chief. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dale. This will circle around to me, Supervisor's report. Dale left me a segue on on local government, how small our community is in terms of 48 full-time employees, and look at the services we offer. And I was forced to review that kind of mentally today. I was asked to participate in a local government / civics presentation at Gibraltar Carlson High School this morning, along with Mayor Goris. I had Brian Peters, who's the clerk from Brownstown, and a member of the president of Gibraltar School Board, along with Darren Camilleri, Stephanie Chang, and Ray Basham from the State House, State Senate, and Wayne County, respectively. And as Mayor Goris and I were talking about what's the difference between a township and a city, and we're trying to explain that they're very nuanced differences. But he's kind of in the same boat, and it was very uncomfortable. We just poached his most dependable employee to become one of our most dependable employees once again. But I've known Jim for a long time. It was some of the kids had to be there. Some of them wanted to be there, and it was really rewarding to explain why we do what we do, how we do, what we can do, what we can't do, what we wish we could do, how we pay for things to sophomores and juniors in high school, and how important volunteering is in the small communities with so few employees. It was a really enjoyable morning, and we introduced Elena, our new deputy clerk, how we ran the clerk shop one deep on a full-time basis. That's the go-to shop for most of the things people come to Township Hall for. Secondarily would be the cashier to pay bills, and lastly, me to complain about their property taxes. And I let Margie or Tim handle that. But it was fun to force me to look back into what I'm doing, what we're doing as a community, and my impression hasn't changed. We run a very good community here. I'm convinced, and I think I'll match our capabilities up against anyone. So my day got off to a good start. Other odds and ends. The flags are at half-staff in memory of Judge Damon Keith, who died at age 96. He served on the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is based out of Cleveland, I believe, Cincinnati, I'm sorry. But it covers this portion, however many districts there are, or circuits there are. But he's been on there since 1977, which made him a Carter appointee, and well-known, historically famous for his work in the civil rights arenas. So that's why Governor Whitmer ordered the flags to be lowered half-staff to remember Judge Damon Keith, an historic figure in our lifetimes. Other odds and ends going on. I've got to warn you, Herb Fest is coming up this weekend. My wife being co-chair, I need to get a lot of customers to come to Herb Fest, and it's a not-for-profit organization. First of all, you learn some neat cooking stuff, and secondly, they provide at least 2 scholarships to Grosse Ile High School students. So that'll be. Stop by. It runs from 9 until 2, and learn some new cooking techniques. Other things going on. My article in the Grosse Ile Grand, I toned it down a lot from when I originally started putting it together. I was this is a rant. That never ends well. But I had to ratchet back to what is coming down from Lansing, and I took an opportunity to pummel Darren a little bit about it. But some of the things that are coming down from Lansing are nothing other than an attempt to remove local control, which is what I was emphasizing to the students this morning, up to the state. The Accountability Act, the assessment, which has a title you can't even pronounce, the Assessing Act, to move all these things to a more regional, state-controlled rather than local control. And I just don't see a good outcome coming from that. We're going to have unfunded mandates on the new lead-copper rules. Anyway, read it with the fact that it's toned down a lot from when I first started writing it, because I left the MTA conference just very, very discouraged about I'm just going to call it interference. We run a good community here. We do pay our bills. Most communities do. So anyway, when you read it, presumably you will, I toned it down quite a bit. The bridge issues. We are meeting with Wayne County on Friday on the bridge issues. You might have seen this document. It was floating around, and much to our surprise, our repair schedule changed. I was a little bit hot about that, but again, before I went into a rant. Chief Murdoch and I met, and we have some grave concerns, and we will be driving much of the fight, hopefully, at this meeting Friday, as to our priority is the Mesa Island Bridge, and then why the delay on the other bridge repairs that were supposed to be starting now. Mesa Island Bridge is supposed to be under repair now. It's been put off for 6 months or so. And what contingency plans? What can we do to preserve the life of that Mesa Island Bridge? And it was mentioned on the Channel 7 article, the newscast, the investigative reporter Heather Catallo, who is now one of my good email buddies. She did a good job, I thought, on the presentation. But what can we do to prolong the life of that bridge safely? What can we do to replace it quickly if we have to, if there is a structural failure? These are the things that keep Chief Murdoch awake at night. And when he's awake at night, I'm awake at night. So these are the things we're going to be handling this Friday. Hopefully I'll have some answers for you. And we'll get into the bridge stuff. I was over in Trenton today for the least well-kept secret, apparently, in the history of the EPA. And the kind of humorous part was all the representatives there from the EPA, from what used to be MDEQ, now they're just calling it EGLE, Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, were there. A lot of people from EPA, actually, and Debbie Dingle was there also, Joe Palmar, myself, Mayor Stack, Mayor Swift from Riverview. I'll just read. We're all sitting there waiting for somebody to read the release. They hadn't published the release yet. So Rachel from the EPA office says, I'll get it out to you, email it to all of you right now. So anyway, when I got back to my office, I had the email. So I'll read the pertinent parts. It says, Trenton, May 13, 2019. Today, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Regional Administrator Kathy Stepp, who was there, announced that the former McLeod Steel Corp site in Trenton, Michigan, is one of 7 sites nationwide being added to the Superfund National Priorities List, the NPL, where releases of contamination pose human health and environmental risks. Stepp toured the McLeod Steel site today and was later joined by Mayor Kyle Stack, representatives of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, U.S. Rep. Debbie Dingle, representatives from Crown Enterprises, residents and stakeholders at Trenton City Hall to discuss next steps as the cleanup goes forward. A little more filler, but the important paragraph. The NPL includes the nation's most serious, uncontrolled, or abandoned releases of contamination. The list serves as a basis for prioritizing EPA Superfund cleanup funding and enforcement actions. Only releases at sites included in the NPL are eligible to receive federal funding for long-term permanent cleanup. And it goes on to list the other sites, but the one obviously that's important to us is the McLeod site. When I had Kathy Stepp, where she couldn't avoid me, and also Andy and Kyle Stack, about keeping the EPA here on Grosse Ile or close to where they can be immediately available to respond to environmental incidents during the cleanup at the McLeod site. Why move them to Ann Arbor when they're needed right here? And she said, Jim Perry from the DCC dumped on her a stack of resolutions, letters of support to keep them here. She has to look at it. We know she has it, and she said she will talk with me about it. We will see if we get some answers, at least for the duration of the McLeod cleanup, which is going to be many, many years. All the guys we have now will probably retire out of that job, but we need to keep them here where they can be on site in 5 or 10 minutes with their, I'll call it turnout gear, the stuff they have to show it to either take samples, measure releases. Bring respirators, the stuff they need to do their jobs. It's here. They can be there in 5 or 10 minutes rather than an hour. Or if it's a game day in Ann Arbor with the University of Michigan, maybe never get there. So that pretty much ate up my afternoon. That's what I've been doing. I will close my report with Memorial Weekend's coming up after Herbfest weekend. So let's be safe out there and enjoy. Remember the history of Memorial Day? It was Decoration Day. Began after the Civil War to remember the graves of the soldiers from both sides who fell. And it's morphed into Memorial Day, but the original concept was, I would give the presentation and, you're a Veterans Party. It's not me. I live to retire. It's for the guys who didn't make it. So let's remember those who didn't get to become veterans. That's Decoration Day, Memorial Day. That concludes my report. And now we'll move on to public comment. I didn't miss anything, didn't screw it up again?
Discussion first? Or, oh, no, public comments.
Public comments. No, we'll, do we want to petition the board? We might want to let Chief Murdoch make his quick presentation, because I think public comment's going to go long, and I want to have enough time to answer any questions or put any fears away. So, Chief, I've covered you a little bit on the bridges, but we want to make. I'm going to move with the petition of the board to move around and get Chief up here to purchase he wants to make.
Please do.
So, Chief.
A couple things on the bridges. I just want the community to understand that the diligence of this board, and along with my office and the police department's office, we're on top of this bridge as best we can with the county. But as you all well know, working with the county sometimes can be extremely frustrating. Please understand that the Mesa Island Bridge is critical infrastructure. It's got me nervous. I know it's got Supervisor Loftus nervous, and we're working on an emergency situation if that bridge does go down prior to it getting repaired. So that is all happening, but you're right. I don't sleep at night thinking about that bridge. So that being said, a couple projects the fire department are moving forward with. I'm here as a discussion item. As you all will know, we have been talking about a new facility out behind the back of the public safety building, strictly a storage garage. I have some preliminary drawings. What I will be coming back to you sometime next month, the next board meeting. We're looking at stick-built, we're looking at steel-built, and we're looking at a pole barn-style building, but to have all the similar colors and styles of the current building. Preliminary thoughts, talking with the architect. At this time, stick-built is going to probably be our cheapest way to go when we're going to build the building, and this building is strictly going to be a place to store. We have a lot of stuff stacked up inside the main building and sitting outside, mostly water rescue, because we are the only water rescue dive organization between Belle Isle and Group Detroit down in Toledo. And if you're fogged in, we are the only thing that's out there going on the island. So we need to get our stuff out of the weather. It sits in the snow all winter long. We just took delivery, DCC just took delivery of a new $83,000 dive trailer, state of the art. We got to keep that thing inside. So it's got to keep kept heated and all that kind of stuff. But I got a quick picture. I've been doing a lot of writing all over it. The current building as it is presented, that's what the building's going to look like in general. It's just strictly a garage. No, it's got heat and power. That's it. That's all it's got. All we're going to do is put boats and water rescue trailers and airboats and stuff in it. Strictly, that's all we're putting in, and dive trailers. So I just want to bring that to the board to make you aware that that project's been under construction for about the last 2 or 3 years. We've been working on it, but other projects have come ahead of it, and we've had to kind of push it back a little bit. But this is the year we're going with it, because we'd like to get everything inside before the snow flies. And then the second thing that we're working on right now, it definitely was not a budgeted item in my proposal for the 2019-2020 budget. We're looking at moving forward with what they call life pack 50s.
Yeah, well, I have a front page to kind of give a display. The rest of that is all flyer.
Right now, we run an AED and multiple pieces of equipment in the back of our rig to take certain vitals and roll at the same time going to the hospital. I brought Chris on board. He's a paramedic on my fire department. And him and I have been discussing the fact I need to find a piece of equipment that will take care of all our vital equipment, all in one pack. The only thing we take in the house, we put it on the patient, boom, we're done, and it monitors the patient all the way to the hospital. The situation with this piece of equipment, and I'm going to let him step in and give you a little bit more background on this piece of equipment, but the big thing is it does give us a cardiac rhythm. It does give us ability to do telemetry to the hospital, and one of the big things is it gives us the ability to download all the information into our computers that we need to send off to the hospital and put into storage for life. I don't know if you know it or not, but all our run reports that we do with everybody have to be kept for life. So this all gets stored. So I'm going to let Chris step in and talk about this piece of equipment real quick. He's extremely familiar with it.
Good evening. My name is Chris Davenport. I'm a sergeant here at the Groseal Fire. I've been with the department now for about 10 years. I'm also employed as a firefighter off the island for the past 6 years. We use life packs where I work at. So when the fire department leadership approached me to find some type of system that'll help us put together all the different items that we use for diagnostic for each patient. Currently, we have a blood pressure kit as one piece. We have a kit that'll give us a heart rate. We'll have another kit that we can add to that to create to monitor CO2 on a patient, and we have a separate AED. What we want to do is put all those things together. So what I came up with is a Life Pack 15. Most of the 18 downriver communities use Life Pack 15s. So one of the things it'll do is it'll put us up with all the other communities in the area. So a little background on the Life Pack. They're created by Physio Control. They've been around for 6 decades. They even have a Life Pack on the International Space Station. They're also the same company that makes our AEDs that we use in the fire department currently, and that Chief Murdoch has distributed around the community in some of the community buildings, the schools. The police department carries them. So it's the same company that we've been using and trusted for at least 15 years, 20 years. Another background, Wyandotte Hospital about 10 years ago put in place about 20 of these Life Pack 15s throughout the downriver communities. Groseal wasn't one of those communities because we were down. We didn't have as many runs as they have, but since then we've pretty much doubled our run volume, so we need to look into a better system. One of the benefits of these Life Pack 15s is that they're fireman proof, or at least fireman resistant. They've been tested, and you can see on the last 2 pages of that pamphlet some of the testing that they've done. They go through a rigorous drop impact and moisture test. Like I said, they're even on the space station. The other benefit to this is that it's an all-in-one system. So I'll go real quick, and if you don't know what it is and you want to ask me questions on what they are, I'm going to quickly give you a synopsis on what's on this. It has non-invasive blood pressure with an option to repeat at planned intervals. We can take a blood pressure and leave the cuff on the patient, and it'll repeat that blood pressure diagnostic as much as we want it to, every minute, every 30 seconds, every 5 minutes. It's important for us on the road because currently, and since I've been on the department for the past 10 years and probably for the past 75 years that we've been a department, we've taken manual blood pressure. And the downside to that is that we need a steady motion. So we have to be stopped in order to do that.
Too much artifact in the back of the rig while you're moving.
You have to listen, you have to watch, and the needle moves a lot, and patients don't always sit still when you want them to sit still. So one of the benefits of the electronic blood pressure cuff is that it'll take it by a push of a button, and it'll continue to take it while we're on the road, which is a big deal for us. It gives us continuous heart rate monitor. Currently we have another mechanism for that. This will put it all in one system. It gives us saturation percentage of oxygen. We have a system for that as well, but it'll integrate it into one piece. End-tidal carbon dioxide monitor. We have a separate piece that we have to hook up to our current system. Again, the system that we use now has been in place since I've been on for the 10 years, and I want to say probably 15 years prior to that, the same type of system. So this technology is obviously advancing, and it's time for us to move up into that. The other benefit to the end-tidal CO2 is it'll give us a capnography reading. So we don't currently have a way to read how much carbon dioxide you're emitting, which tells us a lot about what's ailing you. It also has an optional temperature measurement, which again we have another unit in our ambulance for that, so that's a 5th piece that can be integrated onto this system. And also an integrated automated external defibrillator. So when I talked to Chief Murdoch about his AEDs, he said that he's coming up to a point where he has to replace some of the AEDs in the community, and because of that, the new purchase can be integrated into this system, or the value can be integrated into this system. So that's all one piece inside the one box. Some of the abilities it has that we don't have currently, one of the modes on it is a CPR mode, and what will happen is it will start a metronome that ticks, and it'll help guide our EMTs with the proper cadence for CPR. As caregivers, we're expected to give a higher care to the patients, and it's important that we have every opportunity to improve our care, and a cadence metronome will give us that. It also, like Chief said, it has a Bluetooth transmission of vital signs to our laptop that allows for more accurate and efficient report writing. It has transmission of vital signs to the hospital while we're en route. This enables the hospital to have early identification of a possible heart attack for a patient. It gets them ready with the cath lab as we're approaching. Currently, we can suggest that they might be having a heart attack, but they can't validate that until we get to the hospital. So this improves the time it takes to set up the cath lab for a patient. It has a printable trend history, including vital signs, so we can print the repeating blood pressure, the repeating heart rate, all the things that happened from the time we met the patient until we go to the hospital. We can print up a long sheet that'll give everything that we've done to the hospital. The automatic blood pressure readings for diagnostics and route, which I've talked about. It also has rechargeable batteries. Our current system, we have AA batteries in some things, we have AAA batteries in some things, watch batteries in some things, completely odd size E batteries for another thing.
Just to put it this way, $2,700 a year just in batteries.
So we go through those every year, and we replace them to make sure that they're all fresh. If somebody leaves one of our equipments on last night, we'll come today and find that it's dead. So we also maintain batteries in the ambulance for an emergency, and we change those out. This provides 2 rechargeable batteries that are fully loaded on here. When the monitor is left on, one battery depletes, the other battery does not deplete, and it'll run on a single battery. And then we can simply change those out while it's running. It has a self-testing system, which obviously our system doesn't have, but it'll test itself every evening to say that it's working. It gives a defibrillation of 360 joules. It's important that it's always giving that same amount of shock if necessary. So the only way to do that is to test it, and it'll test itself every night. And because they're distributed through the same company as the stretchers that we most recently picked up with our ambulance, there's a built-in hook on the back of the stretcher that'll mount the monitor as we transport a patient into the ER. So we can leave everything hooked up to the patient, hanging on the back of the stretcher, wheel them and the monitor in at the same time. So these monitors will create a better flow of care for our providers, and it'll help us to maintain the high quality of good patient care that our residents deserve. Do you have any questions?
That all being said, I got a couple more things. Our current AEDs, you know the fire department has, I'm guessing, somewhere between 15 and 18 AEDs throughout the community that it owns. Public buildings, there's a bunch of them in the golf courses, boat clubs, all that kind of stuff. The schools, we have them in all the schools, the same product. This is single source, which is problematic. I can't go out for bid for it. It is what it is. But that being said, out of those 15, 18 units, probably 12 of them are LifePak 15 or 500s. The physio control now is not doing any physical support. Once they quit working, they're done. So now I'm going to have to start replacing these units, and I got to replace them with 1000s that are running about $1,800 a piece. So my thought was, well, I know I got 2 or 3 of them coming up. I'm going to go ahead and take the 3 I have and take them out of service out of the fire department, put them out in the field, and replace them with these. That being said, the price of this unit as it stands right now, the MSRP, is $30,000 a piece for these units. They're extremely expensive, but they will last us a long, long time. These have been in service, like you said, for decades, these particular units. So we're expecting them to be in service for a long time to come. But that being said, the outcome is better treatment for the residents of Grosse Ile. It is not a budgeted item, but there is funding in my equipment account for these 2 pieces of equipment. So I'm just here for discussion, and then once I get all the paperwork done and all the costs and all the testing done with the men, we're going to bring in we're going to bring in loaner units and let the guys use them out in the field and get used to them and see how they like them and see how they work. They'll be running alongside our current AEDs, but we're going to want them to use these and see how they work out. So
one of the other benefits is as far as learning, we don't do a lot of CPRs, thankfully, on the island. So we don't get when we bring out the AEDs. The men are all trained on it several times a year, so they're all comfortable on these AEDs, and they've been training on them since they came on the department. The benefit is that because this is the same company, the layout for the LifePak 15 on the AED side of it is exactly the same as the AEDs that we currently use. So the training shouldn't be too much more than what they've already have.
It looks like a very complicated piece of equipment to operate, but it really isn't. It's extremely simple. So it's fireman proof.
Resistant.
Not proof, resistant.
And we're getting no younger on this island. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
I'm overwhelmed.
Does anybody want to feel a shock from that?
That's why I said we're going to bring it in and test it on us. I'll let Jim go first.
Wait till after public comment, maybe.
And thank you for letting us go ahead of you guys. Appreciate it.
There's always a possibility that they're going to get called away, and we start over. So now you can get called away. Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chris.
Do you want these back, Chief?
Okay, now we're going to open up to public comment. Obviously, we have a lot of people here that are not regulars, as we don't have that many regulars, so I'm assuming the hot topic tonight is developments over in Trenton. Is there anyone who has got a comment on other than the Trenton redevelopment site? And John Leon, and John? And then we can focus our efforts on what we know about McLeod. Mr. Leon.
John Leon, 29815 East River. So my comment is about the Meso Island Bridge. What I heard just lately that the 5-mile-per-hour signs are not required, that the mileage is not required, is a suggested speed.
It's an advisory, yes.
Advisory speed. And I was wondering why, if that bridge is in that condition, why we have an advisory speed and why isn't that reduced to, the 5 mile an hour? If it's suggested, I'm assuming that that's to help the bridge last a little longer since it's being delayed in being repaired.
And I'm not prepared to. I don't know why the county went that route. But please, please adhere to that if you can. If you can. Yep. If you care about the bridge.
I noticed, though, and I don't know, Lorinda, Derek, if there's something we can do with the county, but those signs are not particularly visible either. We recently went up there for a bridal shower, and because I don't usually go up to Hickory Island very often, but I kept thinking, where's the sign? And, obviously as a board member, we're trying to keep our eyes and ears open. And they were kind of, they came quite a bit before the bridge, and they were kind of hidden. So, and they're not big signs either.
Yeah, Chief?
I think it's very important for the residents of Meso Island and any resident or truck traffic that goes over that bridge. I've spent some time, I don't know if some of your residents have seen me, but I stand outside on that bridge as trucks and cars are moving across it. That bridge is moving. And it's moving enough that it's enough to make you nervous. Truck traffic, especially heavy trucks, my fire trucks, they got to adhere to that 5 mile an hour rule. If they hit that bridge doing 40 mile an hour, all they're doing is causing that bridge to move. And just to let the residents know from a safety standpoint, working with the engineers from CE Rains, we have a plan in place. We have drawings in place. We're working on, depending on this meeting, how it goes on Friday. And I'm skeptical. We have to work with the county. I understand that, and it's my pleasure to work with the county. But if they continue to push this off due to funding, then, it's the Township Board, along with police and fire, have to make a decision on how do we protect this bridge if it does collapse. And if it does collapse, my thoughts are it's going to be under a very heavy truck, is how it's going to go down. But that being said, the bridge will be, if we have to replace it, the bridge is going to be excavated quickly as possible. There's 4 40-foot, 10-foot in diameter corrugated tubes that are going to be dropped in the ground or dropped into the water after it's all cleared out, and we're going to stone over the bridge. And this is strictly a temporary situation. And that's to keep the water movement and all that kind of stuff. But that's a plan, I think, that Brian and I and the engineer are going to make that bring it back to this board and say, we got to put this in place. And because if they say they're not going to do it this fall, they're going to wait till next year. We can't continue the push-offs and depend on keeping our fingers crossed. I'm not a guy that wants to keep my fingers crossed. I want to be prepared for something if it goes wrong. Now, that being said, if it did happen, the repair isn't going to happen within an hour and a half. That's not going to happen. But what will happen is the police and fire department's EOC will open up immediately. That's our emergency response facility inside our building, and that's how the Township Board gets activated, fire department gets activated, finance gets activated, police get activated, everybody gets activated until this situation is remedied. And at that point, we will move in with a contractor already on ready to go to excavate, drop, and drop stone. But we'll have fire department along with police department. We'll have our airboats in the water. We'll have our pursuits in the water. We'll have all our necessary equipment in the water to move people back and forth from Mesa Island to the mainland. That will happen. The interruption of medical services will not be interrupted. The only thing that making me nervous and keeping me up at night is fire response. That's making me nervous, because if we're down for 2 or 3 days or a couple of days, that's what's making me nervous. And I'm just being realistic. I'm trying to give you the worst case scenario, and we are preparing for that situation. So I want the residents of Mesa Island or Hickory Island to understand that we're not taking this lightly. We are moving forward, and we're preparing ourselves for the worst case scenario. That's what we're doing, and with the help of the Township Board, I think that's going to occur. So, thank you.
Thanks, Chief, and thank you, Mr. Leon, for bringing that up, because now we're all kind of on the same page as to what the threat is, and that we're prepared to meet that threat as best we can. Mr. Clark, did you have a... I can't see. Oh, okay. Mr. Pilkington.
Good evening, Craig Pilkington, South Point. I just did want to clarify something, and this had to do with your supervisor's column. Because the Civic Association was one of those that published some pieces on Public Act 202 and the position of the township. And I wanted to clarify, because in your article, it said the ensuing attacks on your township's government totally unsubstantiated and published without any research or even a phone call. Now, I don't know whether that related to us or not, but I wanted to clarify that the figures that we worked from were from the F-65s that were submitted by the township to the Department of Treasury, as well as the audited financials that were and the auditor's notes that was done by Yo and Yo. These are the data points from which the Treasury draws their figures. We also made our projections from what Treasury had laid out for determining whether a jurisdiction was hitting the triggers. So I think that our numbers that we work with were well-founded. We were also in possession of the submission for waiver completed from the township to the state, okay, before we wrote anything. Now, I'm not sure whether that had anything to do with us or not, but I thought I would just clarify that while I was up here. I would also like to suggest, relative to that, as we are making out a corrective action plan, that the clock started on April 1st. It is involved. You have 180 days. That it would be great for the board to have options to look at about the 90-day mark so that you could consider alternatives rather than being locked in with only one plan that is either yes or no with a week to go before the compliance date and the submission date is required. So please give yourself enough time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pilkington. Other comments on unrelated to McLeod? Okay, let's open up to McLeod. We can go one of several ways. I don't know how many people want to come up to the microphone, how many people want to listen to other people's comments and responses if I have them. I can afford extra time if you want to put together a spokesperson or two who would be given longer time, or we can just open it to public comment and keep you to exactly 3 minutes because we could be here all night. Who has what? How do we as a community? I mean, I think I've given you everything I know that this township has done and is capable of doing regarding McLeod in Trenton. What else? What stone have I left unturned? You're here for a reason. What do you not know, or do you need to know that you don't know right now? So I have my first volunteer. You're no, I nodded. I pointed to for
Victor Brown. Victor Brown, 8653 Island Boulevard. Couple of things. The Maroon organization is huge, well-funded, and they don't mess around. If they're putting their own money, and I'm sure they'll be happy to take federal money for this cleanup project, if they're putting significant millions of dollars of their own money into this, they certainly expect a return. Okay, that's not necessarily bad, but it certainly can be. And so we're talking about a massive project, I think. If they're spending millions upon millions, at least in their eyes, they're anticipating something that will have very significant effects on ourselves here on Grosse Ile and in Trenton in terms of pollution, in terms of traffic, in terms of safety. That takes me to the other issue I want to address, and I would like you to address as well. Having our attorney investigate what can be done to protect the health and safety of islanders if the toll bridge is blocked or at least inaccessible for long periods of time, and let's say at the same time that repairs are being made to the free bridge, people's lives are at stake. I think there must be some kind of legal protection which needs to be researched in a special circumstance like this. Something done to ensure that the Maroon organization, that both Trenton and Grosse Ile provide for access to hospitals, emergency care, you name it. I haven't heard that, okay? We need to hear it. That has to be done, okay? That's my point.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. All right, Mr. Karmazin.
Greg Karmazin. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the Grosse Ile Civic Association. First of all, I wanted to start out just by saying thank you to the board for taking up the McLeod resolution. I think it would have been, to some extent, easy for you to say that this is in Trenton and it's not our business, but I congratulate you for taking it on and getting into the details, because it does matter to Grosse Ile. So I'd also like to commend the board on continuing, especially Supervisor Loftus, for continuing to pursue the EPA office staying here on Grosse Ile. I think that's important. If we can affect that decision still, certainly it's worth trying to do that. And the third point that I wanted to, again, commend the board for is this meeting you have coming up with Wayne County. I mean, I think that's key to keep engaged with them and keep on top of them and hold them to their promises and representations that have been made in the past. Now, I wanted to step back and focus on the McLeod situation in particular. First of all, I find it disappointing that we are where we are today with that project, and I agree with Supervisor Loftus. It's important to focus with facts, and there's a lot of opinions out there. There's a lot of speculation out there, and Wayne County had an opportunity when they took control of this property back in March of 2017 to sit down with the three communities that this project affects, obviously Trenton, Riverview, and Grosse Ile, and work out, in a collaborative way, a way to approach that property and look at what's really feasible for cleanup, what's feasible for economic development. And unfortunately, that's not what they did. They went forward with a process, what they call request for qualifications process, that was geared towards only an industrial project. That is all that RFP was written to do. And, there's obviously one company that's been very interested in that property since the year 2000. The Maroon Organization's Riverview Trenton Railroad has owned the 76 acres on the north side of that site since the year 2000. And it's now the year 2019. And you haven't seen a lot of activity on that portion of the site. And in fact, it's ironic we're talking about the whole site being put on the Superfund, today, or at least I know that the north portion isn't. That's still under the state of Michigan. But the interesting thing is that the only cleanup work that has actually been done on the 76 acres, which we know is highly contaminated, was done by the EPA. And it was done at a mandate that was put on the government when they discovered, high pH water in the street on Jefferson, which apparently was so high pH that it was actually corrosive, so very hazardous. So, when we're starting at what do we know about the current owner of the property, I mean, I think it is relevant to look at the past 19 years and what was done and not done. So, we have to be vigilant about that. And going forward, I would say that, it is obviously something that we have to work collaboratively with Trenton and Riverview and not jump to conclusion. I agree with, Supervisor Loftus. Got to be careful about facts and not get into conjecture. But by the same token, we got to look at all of the comments, whether they're made by citizens or whether they're made by public officials. And I can assure you from the Civic Association standpoint, we're going to be looking very closely at the public official statements as well as comments that might be made. And we of course run a Facebook page, the Grosse Ile Civic Issues page. We try and put out documents that we find and obtain. Some we found by Freedom of Information Act. If there's ever anything that we put out on that page, I certainly invite any member of the board to make sure that we know if something is wrong. If you find something that's been published that's wrong, please correct us, because we don't want to mislead the public. We want to get the facts out there. But I'll just give you a quick illustration of the fact that it was only last week, or about 2 weeks ago, that I finally was able to obtain from Wayne County the actual bid packages that were submitted in response to that RFQ. And it took 9 months of a Freedom of Information Act to get the most basic information about what the proposals were. And of course, I provided that to every member of the Township Board, and I've also provided it to residents in Trenton. And and I'm not going to get into exactly what the Trenton officials knew, but I'm led to believe that they were surprised to see some of that documentation. So that's a little disturbing, considering Riverview, or Trenton rather, was supposed to be integrally involved in the development of the RFQ and the evaluation of the proposals. So going forward, I just think that the one thing I'd leave you with tonight is that this resolution, as you point out, is just the beginning. This is a starting point. And one of the key things that I think in terms of the follow-up, as you say, we got to keep engaged. Before Trenton rezones that property, we need to see a site plan. We need to see the kind of information that we would request any property owner provide for a rezoning. I know, of course, there is a rezoning decision that's pending right now in Grosse Ile on the West Shore Golf Course, and I listened to the Plan Commission meeting that talked about the beginning of that process, and it was made very clear that there's going to be a lot of public input, public discussion, a lot of facts are going to be required of the property owners and the developers before that decision is made. And I think that's, illustrative of the chairman of the Plan Commission made the comment that, this is a big deal when you rezone. You don't want to get into spot zoning. You want to make a decision that, is not a precedent. And I'm very concerned about the waterfront of downriver and how we treat this project with McClough, because it does set a precedent going forward. So I know there are others who want to say some words tonight, and I'll just wrap it up with that I think one of the key points that I'd like to see the board hold firm on is finding the facts about the site plan on the proposal for the McClough site, and please encourage the city of Trenton to do the same before they make any decision on rezoning the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karmazin. 7 minutes into your, but well said. Other comments? Mr. Heil? Or, well, he used up 2 members of the Civic Association time, but Bill, come on. Okay, so Mr. Pilkington is yielding his time to you. So go ahead.
I'll do my best to be brief. Carl, Uda, I'd like to thank you for your remarks about the idea that this is a beginning, and that futures of coordinated with people to impress a thought upon our community and the people of Trenton, Riverview. I'd be willing to add Gibraltar and others, because this effort that is going on has an impact on all of these communities. My memory, and I'd have to go back and get it, I can't cite the spot in the document, but when I read the purchase agreement, I recall a clause that enables the property, if the property has had $20 million of investment within 72 months, the opportunity for additional lands to be purchased for back taxes. And as I envision it from the way it's described and what I understand of that, I'm envisioning in my mind properties north of King Road, south of Sibley, on back. And there was no limit put on the property, which means this is potentially a bigger project than we even realize at the moment, with even more impact on the community after that, with more trucks, more trains, more boats. So I'm saying that if we work together, I'm talking about people here. Nature and Land is expressing some comments that I think are important. If we can find a way to take all of us with different interests and coordinate them and perhaps work with Riverview and work with Trenton, we can find a creative way to make things work. I might add, I've been on vacation, but I've had opportunity to literally be in several ports of the world in the recent past, and many of them have found a way to make mixed use work. And I had conversations with Greg in the past, and generally speaking, if you're talking about trying to build a tax base, mixed use has a potential to generate more tax revenue than industrial does. There's a lot of other complications. What I'm saying is, if we stay together and think and talk and work our way through it with a process much like what you have done with creating this resolution, we might work out a better solution. I've got one last illustration and I'll sit. What I mean by that is that if you were to talk about housing in this area, you clean it up to the best standard that you can get. But what you might do is elevate it. It's something that with Grosse Ile might sound kind of revolutionary. But those first 2 or 3 floors are parking lot. And if, God forbid, vapors come up, there's plenty of wind here to blow them away before people become involved with them. It's a thought, a plan that creates things. But there's other things that can be done too. I'm just trying to sow a seed of how, if we relax a minute and think our way through it, we might come up with a better plan to everybody's satisfaction.
Thank you, Mr. Heil. Going around the room, what stone has been left unturned?
I just have one comment. I took a tour of the site a couple weeks ago when Brian wasn't available. And I found it interesting that the property to the south of the McCall Steel site, like from Jefferson south, is still owned by McCall Steel. And a fairly large plot of the property that's on the site is also currently owned by the McCall Steel Group. I didn't know that until I drove through it. I don't know what the entail is, but that whole site to the north, if you come down King Road and go into the plant, everything to the south of that is still McCall Steel property. And I'm not sure how they divided that up on past due taxes. I've asked that question. I haven't received an answer yet, but I did ask how could they possibly split that site up and get their taxes back. So, but that's just a piece of information. I don't know if everybody knew, but I didn't know it at the time. So,
yeah.
I hear the word from Greg, and I hear a word from you, potential at the site. Potential. I've read the purchase agreement. I don't think there's any question about
First,
what.
Introduce yourself. And
Al Kennard.
Yeah.
Yeah. 40-year resident on Grosse Ile. Okay, I've read the purchase agreement. I don't think there's any question about what's going to happen here. The Maroons bought the property. I'm not criticizing them for trying to make money. That's what they do. But as I read it, it's mixed use now. It has to be rezoned, and it's going to happen. They wouldn't be buying this without knowing up front that this is going to be rezoned, and they're going to be able to put in the intermodal thing, the trucks, the trains, and the ships. So they know that's going to happen. I don't think the word potential is correct. I think it's going to happen.
It's I'm going to say conjecture, because they have not made a presentation for a site plan or a use plan to the city of Trenton yet. But in their initial, original documentation, they did present an intermodal plan separately, but not as part of the
right. But it has to be rezoned by Trenton, and they know that's going to happen. So they're buying the property with the idea that they're going to have this intermodal transportation property there.
There's a little more background to it, but I can't specifically cite anything. So there's a little bit more to the mixed use than is available to in front of the public. And I could, if I had more specific details, I'd give it to it. But then otherwise it'd be conjecture on my part. And I'm trying to stay away from that.
Where are you putting your money?
Oh, but I think I know where you're trying to go with this. Obviously, we have to use the words. We can't say that they've done something they haven't yet done.
Well,
but I know what you're saying is they wouldn't be in business if they didn't already think that this was a done deal.
Yeah.
But they haven't met us yet.
We don't have a chair at the table, so to speak.
Well, what we're trying to do with this process, with these resolutions, is show that we actually do have some skin in the game when it comes to getting access to our own community.
Yeah, we're affected by it. There's no question about that. And by the way, I commend you at that first step with the resolution. I mean, that's the first step. But I'm just saying that the words potential. Maroon organization did not buy this property with the idea that they wouldn't be able to put in intermodal stuff. Yeah, and I don't blame them for that. But I'm saying it's a done deal, pretty much. Thanks.
Possibly. I thought you yielded your time. Craig, come on. Go.
This is a different subject.
Go ahead, Mr. Pilkington. Welcome back.
Thank you. Craig Pilkington, South Point. Relative to this issue, and I'd like to congratulate you as well, because it's long overdue that we take this step. We do have skin in the game. And as I understand, and I haven't read I wasn't here for the reading of what was actually passed, but it deals with impacts more than prohibitions of specifics, which I think is great. And I think one of the things that Groseal can champion in trying to influence the city of Trenton is for them to look at the adoption of ordinances, zoning ordinances comparable to what the city of Detroit has done as far as their bulk material storage ordinance. Now, if this is redundant, and if somebody's already brought this up tonight, please stop me now, but the city of Detroit in late 2017 adopted fairly significant well-constructed, comprehensive ordinances that govern bulk material storage that have long been contributors to pollution in southwest Detroit, that not only limit the media that can be stored, but also the construct of the delivery systems of the
Trenton
storage
already has
systems.
a number of those ordinances.
I've been through the Trenton ordinances, and they don't have anything that is close to the bulk material storage ordinances. And this includes fees, it includes inspections, it includes a lot of different things that effectively, in southwest Detroit, it's going to drive that business out and away from southwest Detroit, because it's really not part of the future vision. We should have every bit the protections that the city of Detroit does, and you can be champions and advocates for those kinds of ordinances along the Trenton Channel. So please take a very close look at those. And one last point, just as an aside, because you mentioned the Maroons facilitating the FCA. The Maroons, who I think are, I don't have any problem with them. I fought them for 10 years for property down in Detroit. They bought that property for $7.5 million, sold it for $42.5 million, and got 10 years later, and got 115 acres of property that went along with it. So, yes, they helped facilitate it, but that put a hell of a lot of money in their pocket, and they've already paid for every bit of investment they're going to make at McLeod.
Here's a copy of the resolution, if you want to, so you don't have to find it online. Other comments from the public present?
Hi, good evening. Yes, my name is Judy Mega. I live on Lafayette Drive. Thank you very much for passing the resolution. Tonight, I liked mine a little bit better. It expanded on yours. I believe, as you can see, this is a major concern to people. I think, first and foremost, I would like an evening set, not at 10 o'clock at night, when we could have a community discussion on this issue. Maybe we could bring in experts. Maybe we could bring in people who have been through similar situations. There have been cities where ports have been proposed where they have been shut down. It's not impossible. I understand it's not our property. I understand there are things we can't do, but there are a lot of things that we can do. And I would like to see this board be proactive on what we can do. Humbug Marsh, they were cutting down trees to build condos on that property. And John Dingle said, "Oh, no, you're not." And he went in and had the waterways declared a sanctuary of some port, and everything was shut down. It's not impossible. As was pointed out, it's a major medical issue. If that bridge, the county bridge is closed and then that bridge is open even 10 times a week, that's a lot of closures when you're having a heart attack and you need to get to the hospital. That is a long time. It's not okay. They can't just do anything they want just because Trenton sold it to. Trenton may have been a good neighbor, but now we are where we are. And we need to make sure that so I would think a community discussion, maybe there's some other ideas. Maybe they should have to give us certain things. Build a hospital here before you're going to shut down our access to get somewhere else. Give us large corporations do it all the time in exchange for zoning. And I agree completely that without a site plan, we should be raising a lot of objection to them approving that zoning change without knowing what's going in there. And they could turn around and sell it to whoever they want. I can't think of a worse corporate neighbor than Maida Maroon, but I'm sure they're out there, and he could turn around and sell it. So I'm very concerned that when I went to my meeting with the EPA in Trenton, they told me, they don't have to wait till the cleanup is done to start building. They can start at any point in the way. So the cleanup may indeed be a long process, but as long as they're not interfering with the cleanup or making it worse, they could start doing whatever it is they want to do in a year, in 2 years, whenever. So we can't be lulled into some sort of, this is going to take a long time, let's not worry about it, we'll address it later. We need to be very proactive now, and I'd like to try to brainstorm as many ideas as we can to try to make that happen, and I think that there's a lot of residents on the island that agree with that.
Thank you, Ms. Mega.
Thank you. And thank you again for passing it tonight. I commend you. I know it's not an easy situation, but I commend all the work that you guys have done on it. So thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Mr. Latimer.
My name is Larry Latimer, 8887 Woodside Drive, Groseal. I've been a resident of Groseal for 65 years, over 65 years. This is the biggest threat in my lifetime that I have seen facing Groseal. It is not something to be taken lightly. My occupation was a commercial realtor and a builder in Southwest Detroit. During that time period, I served, I was a founding member of the Southwest Detroit Environmental Vision Group, and I was 15 years, I was a board member of the Southwest Detroit Business Association. Manny Maroon was one of the biggest threats that we faced in those organizations. He is not community-minded. I don't care what kind of sugarcoating he's done to the people here, but he has to be taken really. You have to be very cautious.
I'm going to ask you for just a minute. The opinions on Mr. Maroon are those of Mr. Latimer's, not of Groseal Township. And Manuel Maroon is not part of Crown Enterprises. It's Matthew Maroon, who I talked to today, who is in charge of it. So let's focus the conversation on Matthew Maroon and going forward.
The company. Let's not talk about Manny Maroon. We'll talk about the company. And the company has got the reputation. It's not Matty Maroon then. It's the company. You're looking at the potential of a very large operation, intermodal facility. And if you want to see one that's real close by, go up to Dix Highway and Verner, or West Verner, where they intersect. You'll see the CSX intermodal site. It's a nightmare. It's full of dust and dirt and trucks and a huge traffic jam there all the time. And you can talk about whether it's 160 trucks a day or 100 trucks a day. They're not going to space themselves out evenly over the day. Those truckers are going to be in there in swarms. And I know that from the occupations that I have worked with in Southwest Detroit. I just ask you to take some caution and be very, very careful, because a contract is one thing, but if you're dealing with somebody that you're going to constantly have to enforce and battle to get them to adhere to it, it's something else. I'm not looking forward to them building anything there.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Latimer. Mr. Debussy.
Try to do this so I don't get too many people's names on there. Kyle Debosset, 21719 West River Road. I have to say, first, the only reason I'm able to be here tonight is because my cousin Erica's been doing an incredible job leading Westcroft Gardens, which we look straight at McLeod Steel with. I often get asked how I can support Westcroft Gardens. Now is the season to do it. Buy flowers there. A lot of people don't know my great-grandfather invented a green leaf compound, which helps condition the soil for acid-loving plants like azaleas, rhododendrons, hydrangeas, many others. We ship that all over southeast Michigan. So, obviously the oldest farm in the state of Michigan. We just celebrated our 100 years. And like many others here, I feel like this is the biggest thing that could happen for generations, not just McLeod Steel, but the whole remaking of the waterfront. So this is very important. I want you all to, I know this is a tough conversation, but I hope you all heard many thank yous tonight. I've been to many township board meetings before, and I haven't heard that many thank yous, I don't think, ever before. So thank you all for the resolution. I printed out 178 petition signatures around this. I just put up the petition, I think, 5 hours ago, and now we're at, let's see, that can show there, probably not very well. But I think we're at 230, so another 50 people have signed petitions since I've been here at the meeting. A couple things. I've heard a lot of things that we can't do, and that's important to know, and it's important to know the facts. But yes, just like Judy said, I'd encourage everyone here to think about the things we can do. I know one thing that hasn't been mentioned is the formerly MDEQ, now Eagle, Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, has an open comment period until May 17th around some of the cleanup they're doing. So I know that's last minute. I cared much more about the resolution than that at this point because I think that stakes out the township's position. But that's something everyone here can comment on and put their comments in on, and that's something theoretically the township could do as well. The Superfund process that started, that's something we can engage with. I want to be very clear, I have no interest in doing something against the interests of Trenton. A lot of us here actually started learning about this through a Trenton citizens group called Trenton Visionaries. And I have no desire to hurt anyone or take away business from anyone. For me, it's about the future of this place. And that's the second thing I'd say. In addition to being proactive about what we can do, let's take the long vision, Let's think not just about Maddie Maroon or Matthew Maroon and their ownership of this, but what the next generation of ownership could have. I don't have all the facts on this, but my understanding, sometimes with industrial cleanup, they will cement over the property and just kind of say they're done. But with a better type of remediation, with open to the rain and possibly some kind of remediation of wetlands, over time some of the stuff that's there could be cleaned. So just things like that we can comment on during the Superfund period that I'd encourage. But overall, again, a positive step. Thank you all for taking this step. I encourage everyone here to be engaged and to continue to be engaged. And I really like the public forum idea. Because it is hard to be here late at night. I know there was a lot of people here that wanted to comment that weren't able to. But I'll try to get those comments. I encourage everyone to read the petition. They have personal comments in there, just to read some of them. It seems to me the last thing we would want on the riverfront is a train yard. The rest of the region is working hard toward public use of waterfront. It would be nice to see downriver evolve. We want our world to be cleaner and our neighborhoods to become increasingly more pleasant, not less so. We want Township to back up its citizens and our needs for the cleanest possible water, air, and noise-free environment. So there's many more there. More signatures have come in. I'll send that to you all. But again, thank you, and I hope you all are happy, as difficult as it is for hearing all those thank yous, because we are really grateful for what you've done. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeBussy. I see a hand, but there's this monitor in the way. Mrs. Walker.
Kathy Walker, Thorpe Court. I know today is the 13th. In 15 days, the 7th season of We Kayak is starting. And I know everybody here is excited about it. I know Carl is. He has to be. And we want to invite everyone and welcome anyone who wants to come. It's 2 weeks away. It's a Tuesday after Memorial Day, so please come on down. Kim is doing a wonderful job getting our soft launch ready. We're getting new carpeting, which we're real excited about. So I wanted to just give, since this is the last board meeting before, I want to plug that and say come on down. And lastly, I want to thank the Township. You don't hear me say that very often, but I am thanking you for the dump the junk and save and get a treasure. It was great. It was clean. It was organized. It was absolutely really a fun thing to do. And I have to thank Carl for protecting my treasure, because somebody was trying to buy it off of me, literally. And I have to thank Uta for offering me another sewing machine, which I politely declined. I have enough. But it was great, and I just wanted to say that this is something nice that, I don't know what it costs the township financially. I'm sure it costs something. You have labor. But it was great, and it was nice to see, and the weather held. So I thank you. And again, the 28th, 15 days from now, We Kayak 7th season. Hope to see everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Little off the top we were supposed to be on, but that's... Oh, well. Closing comments? No hands go up? Second, all those in favor of adjourning. I want to thank everyone for coming. You know pretty much everything we know on the McLeod thing. We'll try to keep you updated. Bridges, I think we've got everything on the table now. Stay in touch. Thanks. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I call the meeting adjourned at 10:19. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Be safe. Be careful.